This is your weekly roundup on EAC News Channel. You look back at the past week in the Kingdom of Wonder. A very good evening. I'm Anthony Ellis. Prime Minister Hun Sen has said Cambodia's diplomatic process in functioning normally as Commune district council election campaigns, with 17 participating parties in total, are running smoothly. EAC News reporter Darshana Guchin has more.
Speaking from Davos, Switzerland on Saturday, 21st May, Prime Minister Hun Sen said the 17-party election campaign is a democratic process for Cambodia.
Nơi trong một tiết ngày này, những cộng viên bao nhiêu tình yêu cả, nơi cả bát nào, đại nhiêu tình yêu cả nó trời thua là đáp phẩm pil cả nạp bạc chô ru, cả nó bằng hai bìa vậy, nó hai chiết tất được hiệp.
The 14-day election campaign runs from 21st May to 3rd June and is held every 5 years. Each party can hold gatherings, campaigners can march by foot or by vehicle, hand out flyers, promote their party over loudspeaker, or publish videos to promote their political programs and seek support from the electorate. Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged everyone campaigning to maintain their dignity and not threaten other parties with words or gestures, and to only compete with the use of politics. NEC spokesperson Hang Putia told EAC News that the election campaign has begun smoothly, with a large number of participants, good cooperation with local authorities, and no complaints of violence, showing the maturity of political parties in Cambodia. He added that this good conduct is an encouragement for people to go to the polls. The 5th Commune District Council election will be held on 5th June with 17 political parties participating in total. These parties will compete to hold 11,622 Commune Council seats from 1,652 communes and districts nationwide, with more than 9.2 million registered voters. Darshana Gauchan, EAC News.
Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Sen has repeatedly mentioned the reasons for commitment to peace and protecting peace in Cambodia. He has said that the value of his word covered 6 factors that propelled Cambodia to develop as it is now. From Davos, Switzerland, during a meeting with more than 2,000 Cambodians in Europe and thousands of other social media followers on Saturday night, the 21st of May, Prime Minister Hun Sen stated the 6 values factors of the world peace and absence of wars: no deaths or disabilities due to war, no orphans and widows due to war, no influx of refugees in the country, no destructions of infrastructure, and the rise of democracy and human rights. The Prime Minister raised the question of what if the war continued to be present, which will be 24 years. How many more deaths, disabilities, destructions of infrastructure and sufferings would there be?
What the main nation group ban bằng cao ở dươngរៀបចំដំណើរការប្រជាធិបតេយ្យនិងការគោរពសិទ្ធិមនុស្សក្របកំភ្លើងវាអត់ដែលស្គាល់សិទ្ធិមនុស្សកុំឆ្ងល់តែគេត្រូវការបាញ់ហើយគេបាញ់ហើយមិនថាភាគីណាទេតែកាលណាទៅបាញ់គ្នាគេបាញ់ហើយគេអត់ស្គាល់ថាអានោះវាសិទ្ធិមនុស្សទេវត្តមាននៃសន្តិភាពជំនួសឲ្យសង្គ្រាមនេះវាបានផ្ដល់ឱកាសឲ្យយើងអភិវឌ្ឍសេដ្ឋកិច្ចសង្គមកាត់បន្ថយភាពក្រីក្រយើងពិនិត្យមើលក្រោយសង្គ្រាមឆ្នាំក្រោយរបបប៉ុលពតប្រជាជនយើងមានត្រឹមតែជុំវិញ5លាននាក់ប៉ុណ្ណឹងឥឡូវ17លានណាកើតច្រើននោះច្រើនតែខ្ញុំអត់បន្ទោសនរណាទេពួកខ្ញុំអ្នកនាំអាត
For the past 24 years, the Kingdom of Cambodia has marked 29th of December 1998 as the end of the civil war without bloodshed and achieved complete peace through the win-win policy of the Prime Minister Hun Sen. It was a majority policy that led Cambodia, after going through the stages of war, the genocide regime of Pol Pot, and negotiations into the emergence of the win-win policy. Win-win policies have brought Cambodia back to peaceful United Nations after more than 500 years of fractured history. The SEA Games flag has arrived in Phnom Penh with the Cambodian athletes around 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday the 24th of May. The National Olympic Committee of Cambodia celebrated this arrival with a parade of athletes and the flag from Phnom Penh International Airport all the way to the National Olympic Committee of Cambodia. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has details.
Upon his arrival in Cambodia, the Minister of Defense and Chairman of the Cambodian SEA Games Organizing Committee of the 32nd SEA Games in 2023, Deputy Prime Minister Thiep Bain said that this is a historic achievement in sports and prestige to bring the flag of the 32nd SEA Games to Cambodia. The Deputy Prime Minister added that, let the spirit of the SEA Games provide the strength and energize the national sports movement and the Olympic movement, as well as helping Cambodia to host the 2023 ASEAN Para Games successfully to achieve great national honor. This will be the first historical event in sports for the Kingdom of Cambodia. He called on all ministries, institutions, stakeholders, and Cambodians to be ready to host sports delegation and international guests from around the world with a smile and dignified attitude, maintain cleanliness, and eliminate inactivity in society to promote Cambodia's reputation in this historic event. Deputy Prime Minister said, I would like to call on all of you to join and be the host everywhere and be very active in our sporting events as well. In addition, the Deputy Prime Minister also asked all philanthropists to support the ASEAN Sports Fund 2023 to contribute and support the spending of the SEA Games and Para Games 2023 in order for the events to be successful. This is the first time that Cambodia will host the SEA Games and Para Games after Cambodia completed 100% of the Morodok Nacho National Stadium in Phnom Penh. Last night, the Cambodian national anthem was played in the Hanoi Indoor Games Gymnasium as Vietnam handed over the SEA Games flag to the Cambodian delegation as the host of the 2023 SEA Games. The 2023 SEA Games in Cambodia will officially open on the 5th of May until the 17th of May, while the ASEAN Para Games will start on the 1st of June until the 10th of June 2023. Decca Nin, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has said the world recovers from the COVID-19 crisis. The Russian-Ukraine war has now put the world in the worst position, affecting socio-economic development and long-term political geography. He has called the world to maintain order, peace and food security to ensure the well-being of the people across the globe. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has the details.
Prime Minister Hun Sen made these remarks at the opening ceremony of the 78th session of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, which was held under the theme of forming a joint agenda for promoting sustainable development in Asia and the Pacific on the morning of Monday, 23rd of May. The Prime Minister said that the current global COVID-19 crisis has improved but not yet completely gone away, and the main priority of the common agenda in the Asia-Pacific region, as well as the world as a whole, remains focused on overcoming the fight against COVID-19 by using vaccines as a key strategic weapon. He further praised the culture of mutual assistance, especially the sharing of COVID-19 vaccines, aimed at building full herd immunity throughout the world and encouraging openness and strengthening economic integration through the promotion of investment, trade, the full implementation of free trade agreements that have entered into force, and the connection of people around the world, especially in the field of tourism, to jointly restore and stimulate domestic and regional economic growth in the aftermath of COVID-19 crisis. Prime Minister Hun Sen also raised concern about the war in Ukraine, saying that this crisis not only hinders socio-economic recovery, but also has a long-term socio-economic and geopolitical impact. He called for joint efforts to maintain order, peace, and especially food security in Cambodia and the broader region by maintaining the flow of essential goods so that people do not suffer more and to ensure that no one is left behind. As the 2022 ASEAN Chair, Prime Minister Hun Sen is confident that the 78th session of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific will lead to lively discussions and the establishment of new mechanisms and initiatives for Asia-Pacific cooperation to promote recovery and growth after the COVID-19 crisis and towards achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals as expected. The Prime Minister emphasized that Cambodia is ready to participate as a country in the Asia-Pacific as well as the 2022 ASEAN Chair. Dekanin EAC News.
Member of the Cambodian People's Party Standing Committee of the Chairman of the Youth Committee, Hun Manet, stated the election campaign aimed for political parties and disseminate policies and political programs to develop communes in order to earn votes. EAC News reporter Darshana Guchin has the story.
Hun Manet said during a meeting with activists, speakers, and the working groups of youths of Svay Rieng Province on Sunday, 22nd May, that the main factor in determining the success of the CPP is to promote the major achievements and working policies of the party, as well as fully guarantee to the people the commitment of continuing to serve the nation and the people in all circumstances, and to absolutely protect the sustainability of peace, stability, and development in all areas of Cambodia. He thanked the working group of youths of Svay Rieng Province for its efforts to organize a large family gathering for the party under the support of the Provincial Party Committee, while today is the second day of the commencement for the 5th mandate Commune District Council election campaign. He said, since yesterday, supporters of the Cambodian People's Party in all parts of the country, including the 80 communes in Svay Rieng Province, have been active in the campaign abundantly, which shows the stature and the strength of the great unity to achieve the overwhelming success in the future. He added that far from the strategy of some competitors, most of which focus on attacks, criticism, fake news, or the promise of democracy, the main factor in determining the success of the CPP is to promote the major achievements and working policies that have successfully implemented from the past to the present, and with a clear summary and evaluation from one term to another, as well as to fully guarantee to the people the commitment of continuing to serve the nation and the people in all circumstances, and to absolutely protect the sustainability of peace, stability, and development in all areas of Cambodia. The 14-day election campaign runs from 21st May to 3rd June and is held every 5 years. Each party can hold a gathering, campaign marches by foot or by vehicles, hand out flyers, promote through speakers, or publish videos to promote their political programs and seek support from the electorate. The 5th Commune District Council election will be held on 5th June with the participation of 17 political parties. These parties will compete to hold Commune Council seats, which are 11,622 nationwide from 1,652 communes and districts with more than 9.2 million registered voters. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
On the morning of Saturday, the 21st of May, the political parties who will participate in the 5th election of the Commune Sankrak Council have started their campaign marches to complete the people's vote for their party. EAC News reporter Dekanin has more.
The largest party in Cambodia, the Cambodian People's Party, has launched a nationwide election campaign showing the strength of millions of supporters while other parties seem less active. In a message dated September 21st of May 2022, on behalf of the CPP, the president has pledged in front of the people that the party will successfully implement its policies to maintain peace, stability, security, order, social security, improve the provision of public services, increase social protection, increase the health of the poor and vulnerable, and developing communes in all fields to meet with the higher aspirations and interests of all the people everywhere. CPP's President Hun Sen said, for the past 43 years after the overthrow of the genocidal regime of Pol Pot with the historic victory on the 7th of January 1979, the Cambodian People's Party has led the nation through countless obstacles and difficulties to move forward on the right path that fully responds to the aspirations of the people to achieve great achievements in all areas. He added that the Cambodian people are now living happily in peace and national unity to develop society and improve their lives. CPP supporter Seng Lieng Chai has been a supporter for a long time and wishes everyone to go vote.
ខ្ញុំស្រឡាញ់គណៈបព្វជិជនយើងច្រើនតាំងពីចាប់ផ្ដើមសារទី1ឡើងព្រោះអីគាត់ខ្ញុំរស់ដោយសារគណៈបព្វជិជនហើយខ្ញុំមានសុខសប្បាយក៏ដោយសារគណៈបព្វជិជនដែរសារៈសំខាន់សម្រាប់កសាងភូមិឃុំយើងបានល្អដូចថាបងប្អូនយើងហ្នឹងជួយថាបើស្នើជួយគណៈបព្វជិជនទៅព្រោះអីគាត់ដឹកនាំល្អណាស់តាំងពី79មកគឺល្អហ្មង
In addition, John Pierrot believes that voting is the people's right and duty.
ថ្ងៃនេះគឺជាថ្ងៃចាប់ផ្ដើមឃោសនាបោះឆ្នោតគណៈបកឃុំសង្កាត់នៅតាមឃុំរៀងៗខ្លួនហើយဒီនេះខ្ញុំចូលរួមនៅជាមួយនឹងគណៈបកប្រជាជនកម្ពុជាដែលជាគណៈបកដែលពួកខ្ញុំស្រឡាញ់និងពេញចិត្តគិតថាបោះឆ្នោតមានសារៈសំខាន់គឺយើងទីមួយយើងមានសិទ្ធិបញ្ចេញមតិនៅក្នុងការជ្រើសរើសមេដឹកនាំរបស់យើងហើយក៏ទីពីរក៏ជាការដែលយើងត្រូវមានការទុកចិត្តទៅលើថ្នាក់ដឹកនាំដែលធ្វើការអភិវឌ្ឍប្រទេសជាតិយើងផងដែរបាទ
On the first day of this campaign, another interested party that also marched in Phnom Penh is the Candlelight Party. Although party supporters say that the democracy in Cambodia does not seem to be complete, they are happy to be campaigning and voting this year. A resident of the Commune, Savina, 50, is happy to see her party campaigning once again.
របស់ខ្ញុំគឺសប្បាយចិត្តព្រោះយើងខានឃោសនាអញ្ចឹងប្រហែលជា 4-5 ឆ្នាំហើយតាំងពីគេរំលាយបកសង្គ្រោះជាតិមកប៉ុន្តែបកភ្លើងទៀនជាហែក្បួនតូចតែម្ដងនេះយើងចូលរួមបោះឆ្នោតឃុំសង្កាត់នេះយើងហែជាក្បួនធំសារៈសំខាន់យើងចង់ចូលរួមក្នុងឃុំសង្កាត់ហ្នឹងដើម្បីការពារប្រជាពលរដ្ឋដែលគាត់មានការលំបាកក្នុងការធ្វើกระดาษស្នាមអីចឹងហ្នឹងហើយព្រោះពីមុនមានបកតែមួយគាត់ជិះសេលែងដៃអញ្ចឹងប្រជាពលរដ្ឋយើងពិបាក ឥឡូវយើងចូលរួមបកភ្លើងទៀនយើងជួយប្រជាពលរដ្ឋដែលគាត់ពិបាកធ្វើกระดาษស្នាមពិបាកអីចឹងណាហ្នឹងហើយនឹងយើងនាំលទ្ធិប្រជាធិបតេយ្យមកប្រជាពលរដ្ឋគាត់ស្គាល់បន្តតាមគណៈបកភ្លើងទៀន
Another 50-year-old supporter of the Candlelight Party who wishes to remain anonymous does not believe that the election will be fully democratic.
មានអារម្មណ៍ថាសប្បាយចិត្តដោយសារប្រជាជនយើងកាន់លទ្ធិប្រជាធិបតេយ្យចូលចិត្តអាឡែងអ្នកកាន់លទ្ធិប្រជាធិបតេយ្យអញ្ចឹងការបោះឆ្នោតបើសិនជាទៅតាមលទ្ធិប្រជាធិបតេយ្យមែនគណៈបកភ្លើងទៀននឹងអាចឈ្នះបាទខ្ញុំយល់ថាការបោះឆ្នោតនៅឆ្នាំនេះគឺមានប្រជាធិបតេយ្យទេមិនទាន់អាចសន្និដ្ឋានបានទេព្រោះខ្ញុំថា
Today's campaign includes marches from the CPP, Candlelight Party, and other parties, which went smoothly, non-discriminatory, non-violent, and equally. The National Election Committee also called on all local authorities to take a neutral position in their work and to coordinate the location, road, and time for each political party to implement their programs and their campaign marches. Samkontemi, NAFIC Executive Director, noted that on the first day of the campaign, there were two parties that launched large-scale campaigns, the Cambodian People's Party and the Candlelight Party, and did not see any irregularities in the campaign.
ថ្ងៃនេះសម្រាប់ខែដំបូងនេះមិនមានភាពប្រកបអីទេគាត់ថាវាអាចរលូនច្រើនណាបាទតាមការសង្កេតរបស់ខ្ញុំ
An EC spokesman Hong Putia told EAC News that the first day of the election campaign went smoothly, with a large number of participants, good cooperation, and local authorities, and non-violence, which shows the political party's majority in Cambodia.
ចឹងការសន្និដ្ឋានដំបូងដែលកោចបមិនទទួលបានបណ្ដឹងឬក៏បញ្ហាអសកម្មណាកើតមានចឹងអាចសន្និដ្ឋានបានថាថ្ងៃដំបូងនេះគឺប្រព្រឹត្តទៅដោយមានភាពល្អប្រសើរគណៈបច្ចុប្បន្នមានភាពចាស់ទុំហើយក៏សង្ឃឹមថានេះគឺជាការលើកទឹកចិត្តដល់ប្រជាពលរដ្ឋសម្រាប់ការត្រៀមខ្លួនចេញទៅបោះឆ្នោតផងដែរបាទ
The 14-day election campaign runs from the 21st of May to the 3rd of June and is held every 5 years. Each party can hold a gathering, campaign marches by foot or by vehicles, hand out flyers, promote through speakers, or publish videos to promote their political programs and seek support from the electorate. The 5th Commune Sangkat Council election will be held on the 5th of June with the participation of 17 political parties. These parties will compete to hold Commune Council seats, which are 11,622 nationwide from 1,652 Commune Sangkat with more than 9.2 million registered voters.
Prime Minister Hun Sen celebrates the success of Cambodian athletes who won medals in the 31st South Asian Games in Vietnam, as well as the arrival of the SEA Games flag, which signifies that Cambodia will be the next host for the regional sporting event. EAC News reporter Dekanin has the story.
In a special voice message posted on the morning of Wednesday, 25th of May, the Prime Minister said that Cambodia has just received the flag for the upcoming 2023 SEA Games, which Deputy Prime Minister Thiep Banh and Minister of Tourism Thong Khon brought back to Cambodia together, along with the athletes who returned with double the number of medals compared to the previous SEA Games. The Prime Minister said that this is a turning point in history and that Cambodia has gone through a good stage for sports. The Prime Minister also thanked the leaders and athletes who held the SEA Games flag and medal parade after returning home from the Games in Vietnam and entering the headquarters of the National Olympic Committee of Cambodia, where the SEA Games will be held in 2023. At the 31st SEA Games in Hanoi, Vietnam, Cambodia won 9 gold, 13 silver, and 41 bronze medals. Cambodia won a total of 63 medals, beating its previous record total of 53 medals won in Kuala Lumpur in 1971. Cambodia also beat its previous record of 8 gold medals won in Myanmar in 2013. The Minister of National Defense and Chairman of the Cambodian SEA Games Organizing Committee, Deputy Prime Minister Thiep Banh, also called on all relevant ministries, institutions, stakeholders, and Cambodians to be ready to host sports delegation and international guests from all around the world with a smile and dignified attitude, as well as to maintain cleanliness and eliminate inactivity in society to promote Cambodia's reputation during this historic event. This is the first time that Cambodia will host the SEA Games and the ASEAN Para Games, and comes after the construction of the Morodok Dacho National Stadium was completed in Phnom Penh. The 2023 SEA Games in Cambodia will officially open on the 5th of May and run until the 17th of May, while the ASEAN Para Games will start on the 1st of June and run until the 10th of June 2023. Lankan EAC News.
Chairman of the National Assistance Team for Panir Karak District, Tabong Khnum Province, Vong Sut led members of the Cambodian People's Party to start the election campaign on Saturday morning, the 21st of May. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has more.
Minister Vong Sot, as the leader of the most seasoned political party on this occasion, told party members who participated in this campaign to always uphold the dignity of the National Election Committee. He also called on political parties, candidates, and supporters to abide by the rules, regulations, and principles set out in the law on Commune District Council elections and to adhere to the rules, procedures, ethics, and principles set to ensure that the election campaign for Commune District Councillors runs smoothly, securely, and without intimidation and without violence. The National Election Committee has also called on local authorities to take a neutral position in their work and to coordinate the location, road, and time for each political party to implement their programs and their campaign marches to ensure equality and ensure that no discrimination or violence occurs. The 14-day election campaign runs from the 21st of May to the 3rd of June and is held every 5 years. Each party can hold a gathering, campaign marches by foot or by vehicles, hand out flyers, promote through speakers, or publish videos to promote their political programs and seek support from the electorate. The 5th Commune District Council election will be held on the 5th of June with the participation of 17 political parties who will compete to hold 11,622 Commune Council seats from the 1,652 communes and districts nationwide with more than 9.2 million registered voters. Dekanin, EAC News.
Member of the Cambodian People's Party Standing Committee and Chairman of the Youth Central Committee, Hun Manet has stressed the importance of choosing a party to lead the country, saying that considering the selection of political parties to lead the country is like choosing construction process of a building, starting from a selection of architects and engineers with the right skills and experience to ensure its safety of comfort, as well as making sure the pick of the reputable builder with the confidence to ensure the long-lasting strength of the building. Lieutenant General Hun Manet made these remarks during a meeting with the workshop group and youth activists at Kampong Cham province on Monday morning, 23rd of May. He said, the president of the party and party leaders at all levels, as well as candidates for the Commune District Council of the Cambodian People's Party throughout the country, are all experienced in creating and implementing policies for leading, managing the country at both national and subnational levels, have achieved many outstanding achievements in the past. He continued, continuing this noble spirit and actions remains the continent of the leaders and the members of the Cambodian People's Party. He added that for almost 71 years, the CPP has been with the people since the overthrow of the Pol Pot regime, bringing peace, development and prosperity to the country. He reassured that the party will continue to contribute fully and succeeding force of reckon for a better future. The Cambodian People's Party was formed in 28th of June 1951 by Cambodian nationalists to liberate the Cambodian nation from the French colonisation. It is the oldest party in Cambodia and has pushed through the struggle of liberty of Cambodian people for the Khmer Rouge regime in 1979 and has continued to lead the country in the present day. The party is currently led by the President Prime Minister Hun Sen and 4 Vice Presidents, Deputy Prime Minister Sa Keng, Senate President Say Chom, Deputy Prime Minister Thiep Banh, and Deputy Prime Minister Mun Sam Un, with National Assembly President Heng Samrin, an honorary president of the CPP Central Community, currently has 865 members. The Secretary of State of Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans or Youth Rehabilitation, M. Chanmakra, has stated that persons with disabilities are always taken care of by the Royal Government. He said the government also works hard to raise awareness on the importance of technical and vocational training, to modernise technical and vocational education and training programs, as well as the focus on the program closer to persons with disability, based on the needs of the labour market. EAC News reporter Darshana Guchin has more.
Secretary of State M. Chanmakara made these remarks at the opening ceremony of the Technical Working Group meeting on inclusive technical and vocational education and training for people with disabilities on Monday, 23rd May. He continued to say that increasing vocational training for persons with disabilities in accordance with the National Social Protection Policy Framework has also been promoted by the government, and the budget allocation by relevant ministries and institutions to support persons with disabilities with technical and vocational training is also carried out, increasing possibilities for persons with disabilities to volunteer and gain experience in the free labor market. The Secretary of State and Secretary General of Disability Action Council also said that in addition to national policy measures, the Royal Government has encouraged and supported employers, educational institutions, vocational education and training institutions that provide opportunities for persons with disabilities and their families to receive education, vocational training, skills and capacity building on communications through leadership training, confidence building, and career orientation. Ian Jones, the Executive Director of Agile Development Group, also spoke at the opening ceremony and said that persons with disabilities are estimated to represent 2 to 9.5% of Cambodia's population. He highlighted how generally persons with disabilities are more likely to live in poverty, and one of the main reasons for that is an unequal access to education and discriminatory hiring practices. Only 44% of children with disabilities have completed primary school, compared to 73% of youth without disabilities. He added that this gap continues to increase as the level of education advances, but said the Cambodian vocational training system is still at an infant stage in comparison to neighboring countries such as Thailand or Vietnam. In order to ensure sustainable transition of persons with disabilities to decent and appropriate employment opportunities, it is important to address the underlying prejudices, misunderstandings, and constraints of the vocational training sector and the hiring process of the private sector, said Ian Jones. Secretary of State M. Chanmakara, in response, said that he disagrees with one point that Ian Jones mentioned regarding vocational training in Cambodia still being in its infant stages, and encouraged his company to visit the Cambodian Vocational Training Center to see if it was really in its infancy like he had stated. He told the representative of the Ministry of Labor and Vocational Training to send an invitation letter to his company, Agile, to see for himself. The Technical Working Group meeting on inclusive technical and vocational education and training for people with disabilities will be conducted at least once a year on a 2-day basis, attended by representatives of technical groups. Initial meetings will be kicking off in 2022, along with ongoing consultation on the generated guidelines, and the group will meet again to finalize the guidelines at the end of 2023. This meeting will bring together relevant stakeholders seeking to support the improved quality of inclusive education for persons with disabilities, undertake a rigorous assessment and ideation of best practice to inclusive education in the Cambodian context, and gain practical insight into how the barriers to the inclusion of persons with disabilities accessing technical and vocational education and training can be overcome from both the supply and demand sides of education. Darshana Gauchan, EAC News.
Us. The SEA Games have ended on a high note for Cambodian athletes, with winning 9 gold medals at the SEA Games, beating their previous total of 8 gold in Myanmar in 2013. Cambodia's total medal tally is 9 gold, 13 silver and 41 bronze, total of 63 medals. They've also beaten the highest medal tally by 10 medals. The old tally was 53 in Kuala Lumpur in 1971. The athletes return home to Cambodia tonight, and EAC News would like to congratulate all the athletes on their success. The SEA Games will be held in Cambodia from the 5th to the 16th of May next year. The host country finished on top of the medal tally of total 446 medals. Vietnam finished with 205 gold, followed by Thailand 92, Indonesia 69, Philippines with 52, Singapore with 47, and Malaysia with 34. Sri Lanka has been embarked on a sovereign default as remaining foreign exchange reserves of US $1.9 billion as from March 2022 will not be sufficient to pay the country's foreign debt obligations for 2022, with $4 billion to be repaid. Sri Lanka's documented history goes back 3,000 years. Its geographic location and deep harbours has made it of great strategic importance from the earliest days of the ancient Silk Road trade route to today's so-called maritime Silk Road. Because its location made a major trading hub, the country's trade in luxury goods and spices attract traders from many nations, which helped to create Sri Lanka's diverse population. The Portuguese arrived in Sri Lanka largely by accident and then sought to control the island's maritime regions and its lucrative external trade. After the Senegalese-Portuguese War, the Dutch and the Kingdom of Kandy took control of those areas. The Dutch possessions were then taken by the British, who later extended their control over the whole island. Colonising from 1815 to 1948, independence arose in the early 20th century and in 1948. The domination was succeeded by the republic named Sri Lanka in 1972. Sri Lanka's more recent history was marred by the 26-year civil war, which began in 1983 and ended diversely in 2009 when the Sri Lankan armed forces defeated liberation. The domination was succeeded by a republic named Sri Lanka in 1972. Sri Lanka's most recent history was marred by the 26-year civil war, which began in 1983 and ended diversely in 2009 when the Sri Lankan armed forces defeated the liberation of Tigers of the Tamil Elam. In 2004, Asian tsunami killed over 30,000 and displaced over 500,000 people. During the 26 years of conflict of civil war between Sri Lankan government and the Tamil Tigers, between 60,000 and 100,000 people were killed over the many years. The Sri Lankan economic crisis is an ongoing crisis in the island nation of Sri Lanka that started in 2019. It is this country's worst economic crisis since the independence in 1948. It has led to unprecedented levels of inflation, near depletion of foreign exchange reserves, shortages of medical supplies and an increase in prices of basic commodities. The crisis is said to have begun due to multiple compounding factors like tax cuts, money creation, a nationwide policy to shift to organic or biological farming and events as the Easter bombings in 2019 and the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. The subsequent economic hardships resulted in 2022 Sri Lankan protests. In April 2022, the Sri Lankan government announced that it was defaulting, making its first sovereign defaults in Sri Lankan's history since the independence in 1948 and the first state in Asian Pacific region to end a sovereign default in the 21st century. Since 2010, Sri Lanka's foreign debt more than doubled between 2010 and 2020, with foreign debt was about 42% of the GDP in 2019. It rose to 119% of its GDP in 2021. By the end of 2022, the country is due to pay $4 billion to the debtors, whereas in April 2022, government reserves amounted to $2.3 billion. In April 2021, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa announced that Sri Lankans were only allowed organic farming, totally banning inorganic fertilizers and agrochemicals-based fertilizers. The drop in the tea production and the result of the fertilizer ban alone resulted in economic losses around $425 million and created a 20% drop in rice production. The repercussions of the ongoing tense situation between Ukraine and Russia due to the Russian-Ukraine war are felt in already sluggish economic conditions of Sri Lanka. In 2021, the Sri Lankan government officially declared the worst economic crisis in the country's 73 years. In August 2021, a food emergency was declared. However, the government denied food shortages. On May 9, Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa resigned from his position after protesting the country's economic crisis turned violent. According to a statement given by his office, he resigned from his position to help form an interim unity government that can help ease recent protests over the shortage of fuel and other essential imported goods. On May 16, 2022, the newly appointed Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe revealed that the government has no usable dollar reserves and even finding $1 million was a challenge. The country's Prime Minister was warned of the food shortage of the island nation faces and devastating economic crisis and vowed the government will buy enough fertilizer for the next planting season to boost harvest. Mainly for children, it is milk powder, and for even adults are affected with lack of milk powder, fuel, so many things, rice. Everything has gone up. Prices are skyrocketed, said a local resident who gave his name as Balilangani. Nearby, a long queue have formed in front of a shop selling cooking gas cylinders, the prices of which soared for nearly 5,000 rupees, which is $14 from 2,675 rupees in April. So without gas, we cannot do anything. Without kerosene oil, we cannot do anything. So the last thing we have to go and do is to die. Next month, you can see Sri Lankan people without food. A lot of people will die, said Mohammed Shazli, a part-time chauffeur in the queue for the third day to hope to find cooking for his family of 5. Today, police are using tear gas and water cannons against students who have been protesting for a better future, food, fuel, and to bring Sri Lanka back to prosperity. Hundreds of Japanese people rallied on Shiba Park on Tokyo on Sunday to protest against the US President Joe Biden's 3-day visit to Japan as international tensions are running high over the Russian-Ukraine conflict.
Biden arrived in Japan on Sunday and is set to attend a summit on Tuesday where he will meet Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the Australian Prime Minister to promote the Quad mechanism. The Quad, also known as the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, was initiated by then Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2007, supported by then leaders of the US, India, and Australia. Protesters at the rally held banners reading "Oppose the meeting between US and Japanese leaders" and "Oppose the Quad and the IPEF," the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework proposed by Biden during the East Asia Summit in October 2021. Some protesters wore vests saying "Oppose wars." I oppose Biden's visit to Japan. I think it will bring about a new crisis to Asia. I think the US-Japan alliance aims to dominate Asia by military operations. Now the alliance is planning to gradually involve Japan and its self-defense force into wars, said Ryusuke Motoyama, a member of the Bureau of Affairs of the Executive Commission for Preventing Constitutional Amendments for War. I think the Quad mechanism is very dangerous, and I think the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework is also dangerous as it will do harm to Japan. I don't want US and Japan to hold top leaders meeting, said Kanamori, one of the protesters. Some protesters mentioned the ongoing Ukraine crisis, pointing out that the US and NATO are the root causes of the conflict. West European countries and NATO members led by the US have intensified the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, providing military supplies for Ukraine, imposing sanctions on Russia. All this will not stop the conflict, but intensify and prolong it instead. I can't forgive such actions, said Ota, another protester. From a historical perspective, it is the eastward expansion advanced by the US and NATO that provoked Russia's resistance. The root cause is the US, said Shunkichi Takayama, a lawyer. The Quad mechanism is a kind of so-called talks among robbers. They discuss how to carve up the world and form their small block of interests. They said they would stop wars for peace, but in fact they continue to provide weapons to Ukraine. We think what they did is wrong, so we oppose Biden's visit to Japan and their attempt to gang up, said Fumito Morikawa, another lawyer.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. The Minister of Interior, Deputy Prime Minister Saw Keng, has further instructed the capital provincial administrations to continue paying attention to strengthening the implementation of construction projects, as well as adjusting infrastructure to be more accessible and safer to use for persons with disabilities. EAC News reporter Dashani Guchin has more details.
In a circular issued on Wednesday, 18th May, to all provincial governors, Deputy Prime Minister Saw Keng stated that the disability sector is part of the national development policy of the Royal Government of Cambodia. The policy states that the rights of persons with disabilities are protected by national and international law, entailing the protection of their rights and freedoms, the protection of their interests, the endeavor to prevent, reduce, and eliminate discrimination against persons with disabilities, and the affirmed equal rights of persons with disabilities and non-persons with disabilities in social activities. The Deputy Prime Minister further instructed the Capital Provincial Administration to continue paying attention to strengthening the implementation of construction projects and to inspect the construction of public physical infrastructure, including administrative buildings, schools, educational institutions, hospitals, health centers, roads, sidewalks, public parks, bathrooms, parking lots, and more, to ensure they are accessible for persons with disabilities. The Deputy Prime Minister stated, Incorporate physical infrastructure to serve and facilitate people with all kinds of disabilities to be able to move in and out easily and safely and without hindrance. This must be implemented in accordance with the standards and techniques defined by the Interministerial Prakas and without obstacles, and must be in accordance with the technical standards set by the Interministerial Prakas number 248 Soy Proc dated 28 November 2018 on the implementation of physical infrastructure techniques to facilitate persons with disabilities by the Ministry of Land Management, Urban Planning and Construction, and the Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth Rehabilitation. The Secretary of State for the Ministry of Social Affairs and the Secretary General of the Disability Action Council, M. Chan Makara, stated that there are currently many changes being made in the capital and in the provinces, including the preparation of accessible roads, bathrooms, parking lots, and ramps for persons with disabilities, which the government and the private sector have taken joint action in organizing. Obviously, we can see in public places in Cambodia, gas stations, hospitals, shopping malls, there are a lot of changes that have alleviated the difficulties for persons with disabilities, he said. Currently, there are more than 690,000 persons with disabilities in Cambodia, accounting for 4.9% of the total population of more than 16 million. The Royal Government of Cambodia has set out a vision for persons with disabilities and their families to have a good quality of life and be able to fully and equally participate in society with respect for rights and dignity, as well as a disability-inclusive environment in all areas of development. The government launched Phase 1 and 2 of the National Disability Strategic Plan, establishing offices of the Disability Action Council at the national and provincial levels to serve as the coordinator and consultant on disability issues, and to be responsible for raising awareness on disability issues across the country. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
The Ministry of Justice, Karit, has said the ministry has set the 2022 as the year of strengthening the work discipline and ethics of officials in the field of justice, among those in the field who strive to perform their roles and responsibilities and said the ministry will provide incentives and appointments to responsible positions. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has them all.
The Minister of Justice made this statement while speaking at the transfer and inauguration ceremony of the President of the Commune Provincial Court on Monday, 23rd of May. Minister Cartwright instructed all judicial officers, prosecutors, and judges to strictly implement disciplinary measures in accordance with the laws and regulations enforced to ensure justice and fairness to the people in all cases, especially during trial. He stressed that all judges and prosecutors must continue to apply the law properly and avoid the four injustices or bias, such as prejudice because of love, hatred, irresponsibility, and fear of power or more. He said, as all judges and prosecutors have taken the oath before taking office, they must continue to pay attention to the correct and strict implementation of the spirit, principles, and approach in a way that is fast, accurate, fair, and non-corrupt. It has been set up as part of a campaign to address past criminal congestion, even though the campaign has been successfully completed. The minister instructed all judges, prosecutors, and officials in the field of justice to adhere to the Prime Minister's 5 principles of mirroring, bathing, scrubbing, treatment, and surgery as a matter of principle in performing their functions and duties. He added that the tribunal at all levels must pay attention to strengthening its human resource capacity by strengthening research, organizing workshops, training courses, or programs to share new knowledge and experience to civil servants under its guidance. All judges must strive to improve the quality of writing verdicts and judgments in accordance with the rules. Nekanin, EAC News.
The Secretary of State and Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth Rehabilitation, Chamakra, has pushed for the promotion, dissemination of further awareness raising on mental health issues to people in the community, especially for the persons with disabilities to seek timely professional treatment. He made this call when he was speaking at the opening ceremony of the minimum standard training course on the basic counselling for women and the girls victims gender-based violence and stress management on Tuesday morning. EAC News reporter Dashana Guchin has the story.
Secretary of State Makara continued to say, to help seek solutions to problems of mental health patients, providing good advice and encouragement to think positively for the continuation of daily life is a good treatment for patients' minds. He added that the best way to avoid the occurrence of mental illness is for each of us to be satisfied with what we have, to control our emotions, not feel negatively about those around us, not put pressure on oneself or one's family, and to not set too many goals in life. He said there should be a balance between work, rest, and spending enough time with family in everyone's daily life, and this sort of shift from negative to positive thinking is a factor that helps to prevent mental illness. The Secretary of State further expressed his support for the training and stressed that it was important for the Gender Mainstreaming Working Group of the Ministry of Social Affairs, as well as other relevant ministries, to learn more about good practices for counseling women and children who are victims of gender-based violence, in order to prevent, reduce, and address all issues related to violence against women and girls with disabilities. The minimum standards training for basic counseling for women and girl victims of gender-based violence and stress management is organized by the Transcultural Psychosocial Organization, sponsored by the Australian Embassy through Access, with 30 participants in total from relevant ministries and institutions. The second secretary of the Australian Embassy, Connor Floyd, said mental health issues are often ignored or intentionally left aside, often misunderstood or underestimated, as many people still feel uncomfortable speaking about it and prefer to keep it hidden away. He said, however, we should know that mental health issues such as anxiety and depression are affecting most of us, and in our lifetime, we are likely to face such episodes in our personal life. The purpose of this week's training is not for any of you to become an expert counselor, but rather to improve your understanding of the situation of women survivors of violence and your ability to guide them towards relevant services. Unipolar depression or major depressive disorder is a medical condition characterized by continuous feelings of sadness, a persistent lack of interest, among other symptoms. Unipolar depression can be treated through medication and oral therapy. The World Health Organization reported in 2010 that depression was one of the most common mental illnesses worldwide. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
The Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces and the Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Cambodian Army, Lieutenant General Hun Manet, has urged more investors from Can Tho City, Vietnam, to come to Cambodia. He has made these remarks during the meeting of the party's Central Committee member and the Chairman of the People's Committee of Can Tho in the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, Chinh Vot Chong on Tuesday morning. The meeting was held at the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces headquarters in Phnom Penh. Kang Tul's People Committee Chairman Chinh Vot Chong paid a courtesy call to Lieutenant General Hun Manet and stated that he appreciates the current development of Cambodia and shares congratulations with the country on the occasion of the 55th anniversary of the Cambodian-Vietnam diplomatic relations in 2022. He also mentioned that Kang Tul City has history-friendly relations with many organisations in Cambodia, and this is a good cooperation and contributed significantly to promotion of the economic and cultural relations between people. And going forward, he hopes that this bilateral cooperation will be further strengthened and expand. In response, Lieutenant General Hun Manet mentioned the long-standing friendship between Cambodia and Vietnam and thanked the Socialist Republic of Vietnam for the past support of Cambodia. He further stated that he supports encouraging more investments from Kang Tul City to come to Cambodia. Kang Tul's People Committee Chairman Chinh Vot Chong also invited Lieutenant General Hun Manet to visit Kang Tul City in Vietnam at a convenient time in the near future. The Undersecretary of State of Spokesman of the Ministry of Commerce, Ban Savachit, acknowledged the challenge faced by the people because of the rising fuel prices, but said that the state has helped out a lot to reduce the current price on the Cambodian market, making it so that it's not too much more than what the citizens can afford. He said that Cambodia is a country that buys oil from abroad, so the increase in fuel prices on the international stage is the main reason of the increase in the price of domestic fuel. However, Cambodia has guaranteed 2 points which are control prices and have enough to supply the citizens. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has a story.
The current fuel price in Cambodia is 5,600 riel per litre for regular gasoline and 5,400 riel per litre for diesel from 21st to 31st of May 2022. According to the announcement on the retail price of fuel at the station, the price has increased by 50 riel for regular gasoline and 400 riel for diesel compared to the old price. Speaking to EAC News by telephone on Monday 23rd of May, spokesperson Ban Savachit said that in order to keep prices from rising too high, in addition to measures taken in the past, the government has now partnered with the private sector to keep prices low and to ensure that there is enough supply for citizens as well. He said the government has also provided some subsidies in this regard, as we have seen from the beginning until now. The government has continued to subsidize the retail price of fuel with the cooperation of the private sector, which makes the price of fuel a little lower compared to increasing prices on the international stage. We generally observe that although we import the oil, the prices do not rise as much as in other countries, where we have observed it is 2 or 3 times as much. Moreover, we observe that we are at a level that we can control, and secondly, we still have oil for sale. This is an important point. The president of Independent Democracy of Informal Economy Association, Won Po, said that the problem of rising gas prices has seriously affected the lives of people, especially those working in the informal economy, which increases their expenses greatly. He urged the government to reduce taxes on gasoline and instead tax non-essential products. He said, "I do not mind the rise in prices, as the Ukraine and Russia crisis has pushed up international oil prices. For Cambodia, oil and gas prices seem to be rising the highest, and that's a problem. I think what the state can do is review the reduction of the import tax on fuel as well as the gross sales tax. If there is a fear of losing national income due to reducing taxes, the government can tax things that are not important, non-essential things that people do not use daily. I think that's what the state can do." During a meeting with more than 2,000 Cambodians in Europe on the night of Saturday, 21st of May in Davos, Switzerland, Prime Minister Hun Sen raised a new issue that the world is now facing, the Russia-Ukraine war, which has affected fuel prices and caused a potential food crisis. The Prime Minister asked about the current price of gasoline in Europe, which was more than €2 or equivalent to almost 10,000 riel per litre, a price that is much higher than in Cambodia, and said he hopes that the people in the country will be aware of these world gas prices. He added that the reason why he asked such questions is because during the current election campaign for the Commune District Council elections, there will likely be people who use rising gasoline prices in their political platform to deceive the people when the price of gasoline is actually rising almost all over the world. Dekanin, EAC News.
At the World Economic Forum, a gathering of economics experts and state leaders, Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen spoke against the sanctions imposed on other countries, saying it can only cause a loss and lead to a more serious crisis. The Prime Minister made these remarks addressing the strategic outlook on ASEAN and ASEAN chairmanship in Davos, Switzerland on Tuesday night, the 25th of May. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has the details.
ឥឡូវនេះប្រទេសនេះដែលមិនប្រឈមផ្ទាល់នឹងបញ្ហាកំពុងតែជួបនឹងគ្រោះទ្វេទិសគ្រោះមួយខាងគឺចេញមកពីសង្គ្រាមរុស្ស៊ីអ៊ុយក្រែន
Prime Minister Hun Sen has said that Cambodia is holding a hot stone while leading the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in 2022 due to many issues faced by the region, such as the ongoing Myanmar crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the conflict surrounding the South China Sea that Cambodia must work to help resolve. However, the most serious problem, he stressed, is Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has affected the global economy, particularly in the rise of gasoline prices. Additionally, the Prime Minister forecasted that the world will soon face a food crisis in 2023 because of this war. He urged the world to find a solution as soon as possible to avoid the crisis and any further problems in the future. He added that the countries that are not directly involved in the Russia-Ukraine conflict still face danger from two directions: war and useless sanctions.
រឿងតនកម្មនេះគួរតែឈប់ប្រើទៅវាអត់បានផ្ដល់នៅផលប្រយោជន៍ណាមួយសម្រាប់សូម្បីតែអ្នកដាក់តនកម្មគេក៏ខាតខ្លួនឯងដែរកុំថាឡើយប្រទេសយើងក្រីក្រប្រទេសដែលកំពុងដាក់តនកម្មទៅលើរុស្ស៊ីតើបានអីត្រឡប់មកវិញកំពុងតែចោទបញ្ហាឥឡូវខ្ញុំលើកឧទាហរណ៍មួយប្រសិនបើរុស្ស៊ីកាត់ផ្ដាច់អូស្មန်ភ្លាមនៅអឺរ៉ុបជូនមកអឺរ៉ុបប្រទេសអឺរ៉ុបតើប្រទេសអឺរ៉ុបនឹងប្រើអ្វីជំនួសអូស្មန်តើទៅកាប់ឈើកាប់អុសដើម្បីចម្អិនអាហារមែនទេនេះមិនតន់ដល់កម្រិតដែលរុស្ស៊ីកាត់អូស្មန်ចេញពីអឺរ៉ុបទេប្រសិនឥឡូវនេះសូម្បីតែអ្វីដែលធ្លាប់នាំទៅរុស្ស៊ីឬរុស្ស៊ីធ្លាប់មកទាំងអស់គ្នាសិតតែខាតវាប្រៀបដូចជាការបិទទ្វារអញ្ចឹងកាលណាបិទហើយយើងក៏ចេញមិនរួចគេក៏ចូលលំបាកអញ្ចឹងទេតនកម្មវាស្រោចត្រូវទាំងអស់គ្នារាប់ទាំងត្រូវចំពោះពួកយើងដែលមិនមែនជាអ្នកជាប់ពាក់ព័ន្ធវាបានបង្កើតជាបញ្ហា
On 24th February 2022, the Russian Federation launched an attack on Ukraine that Russia calls a special military operation, not an invasion. However, on the night of 2nd March, Cambodia joined 140 other countries to vote in favor of the UN General Assembly resolution, which demanded that Russia immediately, completely, and unconditionally withdraw all of its military forces from the territory of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. Although Cambodia recognizes war as an act of aggression, Cambodia does not support the Western sanctions imposed on Russia, saying that only negotiations can find a solution to this war. So far, the Russia-Ukraine war has been going on for over 3 months. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has said that it is gratifying that during the last few days of the current Commune district council elections campaign, there have been no irregularities or worry about, and all political parties campaigning have adhered to the rule of law, making the election process peaceful and politically neutral. He's also said the hopes of growth of multi-party liberal democracy in Cambodia will be stronger. The Prime Minister made these remarks through a special voice message posted on his official social media pages on Wednesday morning. Prime Minister Hun Sen has called on all political parties to act with dignity, ensure that the election is conducted in a neutral, non-violent and non-threatening political environment in order to allow the people to choose their leaders. He said that he hopes the growth of the multi-party liberal democracy in Cambodia through regular elections will strengthen the liberal multi-party democracy in this country. The 14-day election campaign of the Commune District Council election would run from the 21st of May to the 3rd of June. All political parties are able to hold gathering parades, hang out posters and post videos to promote their political programs in order to seek support of every electorate every 5 years. The 5th Commune District Council election will be held on the 5th of June with 17 political parties competing for 11,622 seats nationwide from 1,652 communes and districts with more than 9.2 million registered voters. After attending the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, the Prime Minister of Cambodia is set to leave Switzerland for Cambodia and arrive back in the country on the 26th of May. This was confirmed in a special voice message posted by the Prime Minister Hun Sen on his social media pages on Wednesday morning. The Prime Minister said that he was preparing to travel by car from Zurich to Zurich, Switzerland, to travel back to Cambodia by a special plane arranged by the royal government of Cambodia. He added that during the trip, the special plane will first have a layover in Tehran, Iran, before departing to Phnom Penh. He said, "Because we are 5 hours apart, I will leave Zurich at 9 a.m., which is about 2 p.m. Cambodian time." He thanked the Cambodian people living in Europe for welcoming him in Zurich, Switzerland on Saturday, especially expressing his gratitude and pride for those who support the CPP and the Royal Government of Cambodia. He said he hopes to meet the Cambodian people living in Europe again in December 2022 in Brussels, Belgium, during the celebrations of the 45th anniversary of EU-ASEAN relations. Prime Minister Hun Sen travelled to Switzerland on Saturday, 21st of May, to attend the World Economic Forum in Davos. During the forum, the Prime Minister met with leaders in other countries, received courtesy calls from political and business dignitaries and businessmen, and also met with Cambodians living in Switzerland and other European countries. The Ministry of Health has issued instructions to those who have signs of a rash, itching, blisters on the body, palms, soles, feet and face, and with a fever over 38.5 degrees Celsius to be isolated for health checkups, as it may be a suspect case of monkeypox. Cambodia does not yet have any cases of this disease, but such safety measures should be taken in the event of cases found in the country. EAC News reporter Dekanin has further details.
According to the instruction published by the Ministry of Health on the 25th of May 2022, in addition to symptoms of rash, itching, blisters, and a fever, other symptoms for monkeypox include headaches, swelling of the lymph nodes, muscle and body pain, lower back pain, and exhaustion. A history of travel to countries where an outbreak of monkeypox has been previously recorded is also a potential indicator. The ministry said that individuals who isolate themselves will need to undergo laboratory tests by providing health officials samples of any wounds they may have on their bodies, which will be sent for analysis at Institute Pasteur du Cambodge laboratory. Suspected cases should isolate until receiving confirmation of a negative laboratory result for the monkeypox virus. Additionally, anyone who has been in contact or around a suspected case, especially immediate family members and relatives, should be tracked down and monitored in accordance with the International Regulations 2005 and the existing case reporting network. The Ministry of Health also advises the general public to practice good hygiene and clean living by regularly washing hands with soap and water, eating well-cooked food, and taking other measures to prevent respiratory infections. Additionally, the ministry stresses avoiding direct contact with patients or suspected persons, including sexual contact, all forms of skin contact, or contact with surfaces a suspected patient may have touched until the patient has recovered or been confirmed negative for the virus. The ministry states that those who are related to the patient do not necessarily have to isolate and can work normally, but must still be careful not to touch others during work and must be monitored for 21 days after the day of contact with a monkeypox patient. Additionally, to prevent the spread of infection at hospitals or health centers, the ministry's instruction states that they must work in accordance with medical techniques, training, and guidance provided in the context of COVID-19 prevention. In both suspected and confirmed cases, health officials must wear personal protection equipment before having contact with patients. The medical team should be vigilant and closely monitor patients with rashes, including postular rash, fever, and other symptoms as previously stated. The ministry added that there is no ban of travelers from any country entering Cambodia, but passengers arriving in the country should be careful and monitor their situation. In addition to the stated measures, the Ministry of Health is also looking for sources to acquire a supply of monkeypox vaccines for Cambodia in advance. The World Health Organization recently received a report of series of monkeypox outbreaks confirmed on the 6th of May 2022 in the United Kingdom from a traveler from Nigeria, where the disease is considered endemic. As of 23rd of May 2022, monkeypox cases has been recorded in 19 non-endemic countries around the world. According to the WHO, there are now a total of 158 reported cases of monkeypox, a total of 117 suspected cases being investigated, and no deaths. 2 cases of this disease has been reported specifically in the Western Pacific. Dekanin, EAC News.
US President Joe Biden asked Americans to stand up on the gun lobby and pressure members of the Congress to pass the sensible gun laws after a killing of at least 19 children and 2 adults in Texas school shooting on Tuesday, 24th of May. We are still waiting for our official count.
The carnage began with the 18-year-old suspect, identified as Salvador Ramos, shooting his own grandmother who survived, authorities said. He fled the scene and crashed his car near the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, a town about 80 miles west of San Antonio. There, he launched a bloody rampage that ended when he was killed, apparently shot by police. The latest bout of gun-fueled mass killings in the United States and the nation's worst school shooting in nearly a decade. The motive was not immediately clear. Texas governor called the school shooting that killed 18 children and 1 adult on Tuesday, 24th May, a senseless crime. Enough is enough, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris called for courage to take action in the aftermath of the Texas school shooting. Mr. President, 14 kids dead in an elementary school in Texas right now. What are we doing? Senator Chris Murphy asks before the latest count was revealed. I'm here on this floor to beg, to literally get down on my hands and knees and beg my colleagues, find a path forward here. Work with us to find a way to pass laws that make this less likely, Murphy said in a fiery floor speech. When are we going to do something? Golden State Warriors coach spoke about the Texas shooting. A father of a 10-year-old said he had been waiting for hours for a status update on his daughter, who was inside her Texas elementary school. Alfred Garza said he has not received any information about whether his daughter, Amy Jo, was injured or killed in the attack. We can't get anything. Are they okay? Are they not okay? We're still waiting, Garza said. Garza and dozens of families of other students waited at the Civic Center in Uvalde, Texas, the designated reunification point for those impacted in the shooting at Robb Elementary School. So many people have called out for the stoppage of America's own war on itself. Cries have come out from all over the United States. When will this stop? When will we stand up to the gun lobbyists? Americans need to start looking at what's happening in their own country instead of advising about what other countries and their wars they need to put to an end to their own mass murdering, follow suit of other countries that have tightened gun laws. U.S. President Joe Biden asked Americans to stand up to the gun lobby and pressure members of Congress to pass sensible gun laws. We have to act, he said, and suggested reinstating the assault weapons ban and other common-sense gun laws. Biden ordered the flags at the White House and at U.S. federal and public buildings to be flown at half-staff until sunset on May 28th.
A joint patrol by Russian and Chinese warplanes near Japan's airspace during Tokyo's hosting of the leaders of the Quad grouping of countries, Minister Nishabi Sakaguchi said. State Department spokesman Ned Price said, Tuesday demonstrates the partnership between the two countries is quite alive and well.
Japan scrambled jets after Russian and Chinese warplanes neared its airspace on Tuesday, Defense Minister Nobuo Kishi said. Tokyo conveyed grave concerns to both Russia and China through diplomatic channels, Kishi said at a news conference that was broadcast online. We believe the fact that this action was taken during the Quad summit makes it more provocative than in the past, he said, adding it was the 4th such incident since November. He characterized the incidents as a likely provocation by both Beijing and Moscow on a day when U.S. President Joe Biden, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Australia's newly elected leader Anthony Albanese were meeting in Tokyo. 2 Chinese warplanes flew over the Sea of Japan from the East China Sea and were then joined by 2 Russian warplanes for a flight together toward the East China Sea, Kishi said. Later, the 2 Chinese warplanes were replaced by another pair believed to be Chinese, which then flew with the Russians on a long flight toward the Pacific Ocean, he said. A Russian reconnaissance plane also flew over the open sea from the northern island of Hokkaido to the Noto Peninsula on Japan's main island, he said. None of the aircraft entered into Japan's airspace, he said. Russia and China both confirmed they conducted a joint patrol. Russia's defense ministry said the patrol lasted 13 hours over the Japanese and East China Seas. The exercise was part of an annual military cooperation plan, China's defense ministry said. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said a joint patrol by Russian and Chinese warplanes near Japan airspace during a visit by U.S. President Joe Biden on Tuesday demonstrates that a partnership between the two countries is quite alive and well.
The PRC in Russia did conduct a joint military patrol involving their strategic bombers on May 24th. The patrol, as we understand it, traversed the Sea of Japan and continued through the East China Sea and the Philippine Sea. This exercise was likely planned well in advance by both countries, and Beijing's decision to cooperate with Moscow in this way, amid Russia's further invasion of Ukraine and the Kremlin's dangerous nuclear rhetoric, demonstrates the quote-unquote no-limits partnerships that they talked about in their joint communique is quite alive and well.
Human monkeypox was first identified in humans in 1970 in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 9-year-old boy in a region where smallpox had been eliminated in 1968. Also in 1970, 11 African countries had also human cases of monkeypox that had been reported. The world is now preparing to give out monkeypox vaccine. WHO and partners are working to better understand the extent and cause of the outbreak of monkeypox. The virus is endemic in some animal populations in a number of countries, leading to occasional outbreaks among local people and travellers. The recent outbreaks reported across 11 countries so far as atypical as they are occurring in non-endemic countries. Human monkeypox was first identified in humans in 1970 in the Democratic Republic of Congo in a 9-year-old boy in a region where smallpox had been eliminated in 1968. Also in 1970, 11 African countries also had human cases of monkeypox that have been reported. A new outbreak has been found on 13th of May 2022. Cases of monkeypox have been reported to WHO from 12 member states that are not endemic for the monkeypox virus. Investigations are ongoing. However, reported cases thus far have no established travel links to endemic areas. Based on currently available information, cases have mainly but not exclusively been identified amongst men who have sex with men seeking care in primary care and sexual health clinics. Monkeypox virus is an orthopox virus that causes a disease with symptoms similar but less severe to smallpox, while smallpox was evacuated in 1980. Monkeypox is a zoonotic, a disease that is transmitted from animals to humans. Causes are often found close to tropical rainforests where there are animals that carry the virus. Evidence of monkeypox virus infection has been found in animals including squirrels, Cambodian poached rats, dormice, different species of monkeys and others. Animal to human zoonotic transmissions can occur from direct contact with body fluids, blood, or continuous or mosco lesions of infected animal. Human to human transmitted is limited, with the longest documented chain of transmissions being 6 generations, meaning that the last person to be infected in this chain was 6 links away from the original sick person. It can be transmitted through contact with body fluids, lesions on the skin, or on internal muscular surfaces, such as in the mouth to throat, respiratory droplets, sexual intercourse, and contaminated objects. The incubation period of monkeypox can range from 5 to 21 days. The febrile stage of illness usually lasts 1 to 3 days with symptoms including fever, intense headache, swelling of the lymph nodes, back pain, muscle ache, and intense lack of energy, therefore by a stage of followed by the skin eruption stage, lasting for 2 to 4 weeks. Lesions involve from musculus, lesions with flat base, to pupillus, raised from painful lesions, to vesicles filled with clear fluid, to pusstules filled with pus, followed by scabs or crusts. It is important to distinguish monkeypox from other illnesses such as chickenpox, measles, bacterial skin infections, scabies, syphilis, and medicated non-associated allergies. The proportion of patients who have died from varied between 0 to 11% in documented cases has been higher among younger children. It's unusual for the world to see this many cases of monkeypox outside of Africa after more than 100 cases were confirmed or suspected around the world. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged foreign investors to invest in Cambodia, saying that Cambodia has now become a country of peace and security. COVID-19 is under control and can facilitate foreign investments with ease. He made these remarks at the Cambodian night to introduce Cambodian products to the international speakers who are attending the 2022 World Forum Summit in Davos, Switzerland on Tuesday, 24th of May. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has the details.
Addressing the speakers who attended the gala night, the Prime Minister highlighted the factors of peace, stability, and progress of Cambodia with controlling and beating the battle of COVID-19, which allowed Cambodia to reopen its economy in early November 2021 and able to accept tourists with fully vaccination from abroad, no longer required to test COVID-19 to attract more investors to Cambodia after the crisis. During the COVID-19 crisis, Cambodia enacted new investment laws, expanded markets, established policies to promote tourism, developed infrastructure, supported transportation, digital information systems, and facilitated public services to ensure investors can invest with ease. Our philosophy is to focus on transforming the challenges posed by the COVID-19 crisis into opportunities for internal reform, as well as infrastructure reform and strengthening socio-economic resilience responding to future crises and to recover quickly, and will accelerate growth in the short term and boost economic growth for the foreseeable future, he said. On this occasion, the Prime Minister invited all businessmen to travel to Cambodia to explore and invest in Cambodia. Cambodia became a member of the World Trade Organization in 2004 and has been active in both the region and the world trade, especially the Cambodia-China Free Trade Agreement and the Cambodia-Korea Free Trade Agreement, which boosted the Cambodian economy. In addition to the bilateral agreement, Cambodia has also become a member of the Regional Comprehensive Partnership Agreement, which became effective in 2022 and is expected to boost the country's economy and bring more foreign and direct investment. With all these possibilities, Cambodia has become one of the fastest growing free market economies in the region. Dekanin, EAC News.
World Economic Forum President Klaus Schwab has confirmed that he will visit Cambodia to see firsthand Cambodia's progress, and he hopes to sign an agreement to establish a hub by the World Economic Forum with Cambodia. This was confirmed by Klaus Schwab and by Prime Minister Hun Sen in a meeting on Tuesday morning, 24th of May in Switzerland. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has more.
During the meeting, Klaus Schwab said that he was invited by the G20 countries to attend the G20 meeting in Indonesia, which is a good opportunity for him to visit and see the progress of Cambodia. He added that he also wants to establish a hub by the World Economic Forum, which has been established in other countries such as the United States, China, and Japan. He said through this hub, we will be able to take advantage of the fourth industrial revolution, which requires the use of many technologies. Furthermore, through the establishment of this hub, it will be possible to use the latest technology as applied in other countries, such as the implementation of the use of drones to transport emergency medicine to remote areas, and drones used in the agriculture sector, and so on. There will also be some jobs that use technology with the banking system. He hopes to work with Cambodia and to be able to sign an agreement between Cambodia and the World Economic Forum in the near future, especially when he comes to the Kingdom of Cambodia. In response, Prime Minister Hun Sen assigned officials to work with the official of the World Economic Forum on this case. The Prime Minister also welcomed the presence of Klaus Schwab to Cambodia, saying that when he comes to Cambodia, he will see the progress of Cambodia after recovering from the devastation of the war. So Klaus Schwab will see firsthand the development of Cambodia after achieving peace. Prime Minister Hun Sen left Cambodia in the early morning on Saturday, 21st of May, to go to Davos, Switzerland, to attend the World Economic Forum. The Prime Minister will also deliver a closing speech with stakeholders on strategic perspectives on ASEAN and at an informal luncheon with World Economic leaders under the theme Restoring Peace and Order, which will take place on the 22nd to 26th of May 2022 in Davos Kloster, Switzerland. Dekanin, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has led a high-level cooperation delegation departing from Zurich, Switzerland, back to Cambodia after attending the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland from 21st to 25th of May 2022. The Royal Government of Cambodia's special plane landed in Phnom Penh International Airport at around 6:30 a.m. on the 26th of May 2022. Before departing Switzerland, the Prime Minister also sent a special voice message to Cambodians living in Europe who come to welcome him last Saturday. The Prime Minister expressed his happiness and pride for the European Cambodians who support the CPP and the Royal Government of Cambodia. He added that he hopes to meet Cambodians living in Europe once again in December 2022 in Brussels, Belgium, during the occasion of the 45th anniversary of the EU-Asian relations. The minister delegate attached to the Prime Minister, Kao Kim Horn, said on the busy work of the 222 Asian chairman, Prime Minister Hun Sen, in recent months has included showing the international community of Cambodia and the ASEAN's desire for stability and security in the region, despite facing many geopolitical challenges from superpowers. The minister delegate made this remark at a press conference on the Prime Minister's return from attending the World Economic Forum in Switzerland on Thursday morning. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has more.
During the 30-minute press conference held at the Phnom Penh International Airport Press Conference Hall, Kai Kum Hoon summarized the Prime Minister's activities while attending the World Economic Forum. He stated that Prime Minister Hun Sen has worked hard for the diplomacy of citizens abroad, reflecting how he pays attention to his people and is focused in his pursuit of ASEAN diplomacy, which has played an important role to promote ASEAN interests on the international stage.
ក្រោយពីសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកហើយបានធ្វើដំណើរទៅអឺរ៉ុបទ្វីបពីរខុសគ្នាប៉ុន្តែគោលដៅតែមួយទេឆ្លុះបញ្ចាំងថា នៅក្នុងតំបន់យើងអាស៊ាននេះយើងត្រូវការសុខសន្តិភាពបាទត្រូវការសន្តិសុខត្រូវការស្ថិរភាពហើយអ្វីដែលសំខាន់គឺថាអាស៊ាននៅដើរតួនាទីយ៉ាងសំខាន់នៅក្នុងការរក្សាសន្តិភាពសន្តិសុខដើម្បីការវិវត្តហើយដើម្បីភាពរីកចម្រើនរបស់តំបន់យើងសម្រាប់ប្រជាពលរដ្ឋក្នុងតំបន់នេះបាទ
Political analyst Amsawarara told EAC News that ASEAN is now at the center of a rivalry between the great superpowers of the world and falls between three contradictory initiatives. China's Belt and Road Initiative, the AUKUS trilateral security pact between Australia, the UK and the US, and the quadrilateral security dialogue between the US, Japan, India and Australia. He added that staying at the center of the ASEAN is the best position that ASEAN has made in 2022.
អាស៊ានឈរលើជំហរបច្ចុប្បន្ននេះជាងដាក់មូលបត្រមួយពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងភាពជាកណ្ដាលរបស់អាស៊ានណាមជ្ឈភាពរបស់អាស៊ានអញ្ចឹងវាអាចខុសពីអាស៊ានមុនឆ្នាំ2022ហ្នឹងកន្លងមកកម្ពុជានឹងឡើងត្រូវគេបានមើលឃើញថានៅក្នុងបរិបទឬក៏និន្នាការទៅខាងចិនហើយប្រទេសមួយចំនួនទៀតនេះទៅខាងអាមេរិកអីចឹងទៅអញ្ចឹងធ្វើឲ្យគេហៅថាទំនាស់គោលនយោបាយការបរទេសនៅក្នុងតំបន់ហ្នឹងរដ្ឋសមាជិកហ្នឹងមានគោលនយោបាយផ្សេងៗគ្នាប៉ុន្តែនៅពេលដែលយើងសន្យានៅក្នុងកិច្ចប្រជុំកម្ពុជាពិសេសអាស៊ានអាមេរិកកិច្ចប្រជុំសេដ្ឋកិច្ចនៅដាវ៉ូសនៅប្រទេសស្វីសនេះខ្ញុំគិតថាវេទិកាពិភពលោកគាត់ចាត់ថ្មីសេដ្ឋកិច្ចហ្នឹងគឺវាល្អសម្រាប់តំបន់អាស៊ានសម្រាប់កម្ពុជាដែលប្រកាន់នៅគោលនយោបាយជាកណ្ដាលសម្រាប់មហាអំណាចទាំងអស់ហ្នឹងគឺជាកិច្ចការមួយល្អដែលអាចរក្សានៅតំបន់អាស៊ានឬក៏កម្ពុជាហ្នឹងគេផុតពីឥទ្ធិពលឬក៏និន្នាការនយោបាយរបស់មហាអំណាចមួយណាប្រាច់មុខបាន
Speaking at the World Economic Forum on the night of Wednesday, 25th of May 2022, Prime Minister Hun Sen stated that Cambodia is currently holding a hot stone, referring to the four major issues it faces as the 2022 ASEAN chair, including the ongoing Myanmar crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, the conflict surrounding the South China Sea, and the Russia-Ukraine war. In line with this, geopolitical competition makes organizing ASEAN more difficult at this time.
គឺពេលនោះមានមតិមួយចំនួនមិនគួរបាននិយាយថានិយាយអំពីបញ្ហាគាត់នោះទេព្រោះគាត់មិនមែនជាយន្តការរបស់អាស៊ានប៉ុន្តែនៅទៅទីចុងក្រោយឥណ្ឌូនេស៊ីក្នុងឋានៈជាអ្នកសម្របសម្រួលរវាងអាស៊ានសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកកម្ពុជាក្នុងនាមជាប្រធានអាស៊ានក៏បានធ្វើការសម្របសម្រួលត្រឹមតួនាទីរបស់គាត់ទាក់ទិននឹងកូវីដប្រឆាំងនឹងកូវីដ-19 គឺវ៉ាក់សាំងតែប៉ុណ្ណោះព្រោះយើងមិនចង់ឲ្យមានការពាក់ព័ន្ធអំពីគេហៅថាសម្ព័ន្ធភាពណាមួយប្រឆាំងជាមួយអ្នកដទៃ
The Prime Minister of Cambodia, as the 2022 ASEAN chairman, stated that any initiative in the Asia-Pacific region or Asia-Pacific for Cambodia and ASEAN is based on three principles: to serve peace and development, to not be against any country, and to respect the unity of ASEAN's neutrality. ASEAN itself is also developing its own Asia-Pacific initiative. The Prime Minister further said,
ខ្ញុំក៏បានកត់សម្គាល់ថាមិត្តភ័ក្តិរបស់យើងជាមហាអំណាចក៏បានប្រាប់មកយើងថាគ្មានការចាំបាច់ដើម្បីឲ្យជ្រើសរើសអ្នកណានោះទេហើយយើងក៏បានបញ្ជាក់ទៅវិញថាបើទោះបីជាអស់លោកឲ្យយើងជ្រើសរើសក៏យើងអាចជ្រើសរើសដែរ
Following an abrupt end midway through the festival of 2020, a 2-year hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Cambodia International Film Festival is finally set to return for its 11th edition from the 28th of June to the 3rd of July 2022. EAC News reporter Dashana Guchin has the details.
The Cambodia International Film Festival held its first press conference at Rosewood Hotel to announce the return of the festival in June on Wednesday, 25th May 2022. The official poster for the 11th edition of the festival was also unveiled, based on an original painting titled Just Born by Kachao Tuat, a female artist based in Battambang. The Cambodia International Film Festival, or CIF, has been jointly organized by the Popana Audiovisual Resource Center and the Cambodia Film Commission since 2010, with the support of the Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts, the Ministry of Information, the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Education, among others. Speaking at the press conference, the director of CIF, Cedric Eloy, remarked on the history of the festival, saying that it was first organized 12 years ago at a time when the film industry was just starting, with the Bopana Center as the only film organization and the creation of the Cambodia Film Commission. He added that they collectively believed that the film festival was an essential tool to witness the progress of the industry and develop education through film, which then also helped lead to the opening of modern theaters, inspired hundreds of young Cambodians to be involved in films, and had a direct impact on attracting foreign films to Cambodia. When asked about what impact fostering a film culture through this festival has had on society, the SIF director said that he has seen great positive change in the way films are now created, and said he thinks the festival has helped to open people's minds.
Of course, when we saw the first short films, 10 years ago, they are only linked to mostly a style of advertising or karaoke, and now we can see that the way of making films is changing. We have new, more creative ways of filming, and I think it's something that needs to be shown and supported to really bring this new generation that has discovered film at the festival, but also in other events, because now filmmakers also are able to travel and have had a lot of opportunities to go to other festivals. So I think it's opened the mind. But one part of learning to make films is to see films, to watch a lot of different films. So CIFF has really been built to do that, meaning that just by staying in Phnom Penh for a week, you can see film from all over the world with different format, different topics, different style. You can go for your interest, but it's really the strength to be able to see different perspective on how to make film, not just the one way that it's been always done, and then you have to follow this way. I think the strength of cinema is that you can always be creative and creative, just like music, yes.
The executive director of the Bopana Center, Chia Sopiep, highlighted how cinema culture has been rooted in Cambodian society since the 1950s and became a celebrated cultural activity in the 1960s and early 1970s. However, the Khmer Rouge effectively disrupted or destroyed cinema in Cambodia shortly after. With that said, he positively noted that young people in Cambodia today like to discover the art of filmmaking and express themselves through motion pictures, providing a promising outlook for the industry.
Films, I think, play very important roles in supporting young people to express themselves. As you know, many of them have very convenient tools, including their small cameras, camera digitals, and even their smartphones. It's very convenient. And what they need right now is only a platform to teach them how to do that. These platforms allow them to express something very nicely, not only artistic expression, but also other social issue expressions. This will help raise public awareness about what is happening. And films also help promote local culture to international stage. Like you can see that many films of Cambodia travel around the world, and this will help attract international audience to at least pay visit to Cambodia, so that this will help boost the tourism industry as well. And also film is the very good format of documentations. It's a visual format that we can see, we can hear, and we can relate our sense to those kind of activity.
Following a huge effort from the royal government of Cambodia in fighting COVID-19, cinemas around Cambodia were finally allowed to reopen again in March 2022, however only at 50% capacity and with strict standard operating procedures in place. The great success of the national vaccination campaign only continued, and finally in early May 2022, the Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts requested for cinemas to be able to operate at 100% capacity once again, to which the royal government approved. This has allowed other film-related activities like festivals to also restart. Remarking on the disruptions caused by COVID-19, SIF director Cedric Eloy stated that the last 2 years had been hard for the entire creative sector, for artists and cultural organizations. However, he believes that the 11th edition of this festival will play a vital role in kickstarting the engine of the Cambodian cinema industry once again. The director of the Cambodia Film Commission, Chiep Sovichia, also commented on how lifting the COVID-19 restrictions following a successful national government effort will allow the commission to resume its work of facilitating the arrival of foreign filmmakers who wish to film in Cambodia at a similar capacity to before the pandemic.
សូមអរគុណដល់រាជរដ្ឋាភិបាលកម្ពុជាដែលមានយុទ្ធនាការចាក់វ៉ាក់សាំងការពារជំងឺ Covid ដល់ប្រជាជនកម្ពុជាទូទាំងប្រទេសបាទបន្ទាប់ពីយើងរដ្ឋាភិបាលបានទទួលជោគជ័យនៅលើ Covid នឹងហើយរដ្ឋាភិបាលបានបើកប្រទេសឡើងវិញបើកសេដ្ឋកិច្ចឡើងវិញហើយឡើងរហូតដល់ទទួលទេសចរឬក៏អ្នកធុរកិច្ចទាំងអស់ដែលចូលមកស្រុកខ្មែរមានការចាក់វ៉ាក់សាំងដោយមិនបាច់ចាក់ធ្វើចាក់តាលិស័កបាទគឺជាឱកាសមួយដែលផ្ដល់ដល់ក្រុមអ្នកថតភាពយន្តបរទេសអាចចូលមកស្រុកយើងវិញបានមកធ្វើការបានក្នុងអំឡុងពេល Covid 2 ឆ្នាំហ្នឹងជិត2ឆ្នាំហ្នឹងគឺយើងមានផលិតករមួយចំនួនគាត់ចង់មកដែរតែស្រុកគាត់ក៏ចេញមកមិនកើតយើងក៏មិនទាន់ហ៊ានទទួលព្រោះគេថាផលិតករមួយដែលគេមកពីស្រុកគេមកដល់យើងគេមកថតហ្នឹងគឺគេមកធ្វើការមិនចង់ធ្វើចាក់តាលិស័កអញ្ចឹងផលិតករគាត់មិនមានថវិកាគ្រប់គ្រាន់សម្រាប់ការធ្វើចាក់តាលិស័កមកថាអ្នកបច្ចេកទេសមក10នាក់ធ្វើ4ដល់10ថ្ងៃគឺការចំណាយច្រើនបាទហើយដល់ពេលឥឡូវហ្នឹងគឺយើងរដ្ឋាភិបាលបើកឡើងវិញគឺជាឱកាសល្អច្រើនសម្រាប់ CEC ដែលយើងអាចបន្តដំណើរការផ្ដល់ជួយសម្របសម្រួលការថតភាពយន្តបរទេសយើងនឹងរៀបចំការបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលជា film workshop ខ្លីៗឡើងវិញទៀតគឺថាគឺជាឱកាសល្អមែនទែនដែលយើងអាចដំណើរការពីសកម្មភាពរបស់យើងដូចការសម័យមុន Covid ឡើងវិញ
Speaking on the future of the Cambodian film industry, the executive director of the Bophana Center said external factors like the COVID-19 pandemic play a big role in impacting the industry, but nevertheless, he believes that Cambodian cinema will continue to thrive based on the number of new rising filmmakers and ever-growing interest from young people in the medium.
It is very difficult to say much about this. It depends on the global phenomenon. As you can see, that Cambodian film industry started to grow in the last decade, but within 2 years of pandemics, we have big problems. So we never know what is happening. But if the situation become good, like we don't really have any disruption like COVID-19 or the other issue, I am sure that cinema in Cambodia is going back again. We can see the numbers of rising filmmakers in Cambodia. One of whom is like Ninkovich. This is something that we can see. So Canrado, Polans, and many others. And we also see that young Cambodian people really like this mediums, motion picture so much. They go to cinema, they go to commercial cinema and also art house cinema. And I feel that we are in a good way moving forward within this industry.
In his closing remarks, the director of CIF stated that making the festival happen has always been a challenging process that would not have been possible without the support of their teams, partners, friends, and organizations. He further thanked the support of UNESCO, the Australian Embassy, and the continuous encouragement of various ministries, especially the Ministries of Culture and Fine Arts, Tourism, Information, and Education. He noted that CIF continues to grow more popular every year, but the festival still needs more support to continue growing. Thus, he invited all companies, institutions, foundations, and others who are interested to join the success story of bringing CIF back this year. He also spoke further on the support of the royal government as well as what he hopes to see in terms of future support for CIF.
We are very lucky because, of course, the government is very supportive of the arts and there is a very strong encouragement to have these platforms for filmmakers and for educating the youth. And so it's very good to have this kind of support, and we are lucky for that in Cambodia. And of course, from other institutions, we have we have ideas of creating maybe a film competition, maybe a film fund, or a fund to help more local production to develop and produce more quality films. Because of course, financing cultural events, cultural products is always challenging. But we hope to put together a strong community of private and public sector to be able to put together, yes, more and more projects that are dedicated to the industry.
The Cambodia International Film Festival is Cambodia's largest international film and cultural event. Initiated in 2010, it acts as a catalyst for the film sector initiative, gathering more than 20,000 participants each year. The festival acts as a bridge between Cambodia and the world through the universal language of film and culture, promotes the circulation of films within the region, and promotes Cambodian productions. The 11th edition of CIF will be celebrated in more than 10 different venues around Phnom Penh this year, including the Chaktamuk Conference Hall, Major Cineplex, Legend Cinema, Rosewood Hotel, the Bopana Center, French Institute, Java Creative, and Factory Phnom Penh. The full program for this year's festival will be announced later in June. After 2 years, the Cambodian International Film Festival is finally back. You can catch this festival next month from 28th June to 3rd July, and films will be screening at several locations, including Major and Legend Cineplex, right here at Rosewood Hotel, the Bopana Center, as well as the French Institute, and we really look forward to attending the festival next month. Darshana Gautan, EAC News, Rosewood Hotel, Phnom Penh.
Some 36,000 Americans or more die by firearms every year, or about 100 a day. The United States leads high-income countries in gun violence, accounting for 9% of firearm homicides globally, with 4% of the world's population, while also possessing more civilian-owned guns of 393 million to any compatible nation.
Tuesday, carnage began with the 18-year-old suspect identified as Salvador Ramos shooting his own grandmother who survived, authorities said. He fled that scene and crashed his car near the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. There he launched a bloody rampage that ended when he was killed, apparently shot by police. A day after a gunman killed at least 19 school children and 2 teachers at a Texas elementary school, some Americans are starting to stand up and voice their opinion about gun laws. Stand up against the gun lobbyist. House Majority Leader Senator Chuck Schumer accused his Republican colleagues of caring more about the NRA than they do about families who grieve victims of gun violence. It's sad the world that we live in. We need to reform that. Guns shouldn't be as easily accessible, like it's easier to get a gun than baby formula right now, said Warriors Damian Lee. Warriors star point guard Steph Curry echoed his coach Steve Kerr's emotional pre-game news conference where he called for a stricter gun control, before adding that he could not imagine the pain and grief felt by the families affected. I don't want 18-year-olds to have guns, New York Governor Kathy Hochul. How does an 18-year-old purchase an AR-15 in the state of New York, state of Texas? That person is not old enough to buy a legal drink. I want to work with the legislature to change that. I want it to be 21. I don't want 18-year-olds to have guns, at least not in the state of New York. David Hogg, a survivor of the 2018 Parkland, Florida high school shooting and a gun control activist, believes the cycle of legislative inaction may finally end following deadly massacre at a Texas elementary school. It just had to be different, he said in an interview outside the White House on Wednesday, 25th of May. I want anything. We gotta save lives now. Tearful tributes to the young victims of the Texas primary school shooting. Mata Rubio, one of the many who shared memories of their murdered relatives and friends on social media. The posts were heartbreaking to read. My baby, you didn't deserve this. Veronica Luewanos, the mother of 4th grader Jaila Silguero, wrote on Facebook. I just want to hold you and tell you how pretty you are. I want to take you outside and practice softball. I want to go on one last family vacation. I want to hear your contagious laugh. And I want you to hear me tell you how much I love you, the post read. In another social media post, Steven Garcia paid tribute to his late daughter. Our Ellie was a doll and was the happiest ever. I was gonna DJ for her at her party like she wanted me to. Messages of support and condolences poured in on Garcia's page. Not only was she my little cousin, she was also my daughter's age, Eli B. Roos wrote. Remember the day of my dad's funeral, Steven Garcia gave me a big tight hug. I will be doing the same for him. US President Joe Biden said that he and the First Lady Jill Biden will travel to Uvalde, Texas in the coming days to console families of the young shooting victims killed at an elementary school. President Biden said that don't just go and visit, stand up and do something about this. Use your power to stop this. Innocent children are dying in your own backyard in a war that could be stopped by you.
You couldn't own a cannon. You couldn't own certain kinds of weapons.
Russian President Vladimir Putin visited a Moscow military hospital on Wednesday the 25th of May to speak to soldiers whom Russian media said had been wounded in Russia's military operation in Ukraine, while the Russian government considers withdrawing from WTO and WHO. The Russian president shook the injured soldiers' hands and thanked them for their service. One of the soldiers greeted by the Russian president and asked for permission to continue fighting, according to the clinical internally speaking on their behalf, which Putin granted. It is not known how many Russian soldiers have been killed or wounded in the Moscow terms, its special military operation in the east of Ukraine. Russia seeks to liberate Ukraine and let Ukrainians decide their own future. While the Ukraine demands an immediate ceasefire and will not compromise on the territorial issues, said former senior officials from both sides on Tuesday as they spoke about their respective countries' goals in a prolonged crisis. The Russian army will crash the Ukraine army but welcome those who did not take orders from Kyiv, said Sergei Makarov, a former spokesman for Russian President Vladimir Putin, in an exclusive interview with China Global Television Network. CGTN also spoke with former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, who served from 2014 to 2019. Poroshenko said Ukraine wants to cease fire, the release of the hostages, withdrawal of Russian troops and humanitarian corridors in the first place, and he believes the country will not compromise in territorial issues. Major General Konchakov said Tuesday that in the past 24 hours, the Russian armed forces used high-precision air-based missiles to hit military targets such as Ukrainian compound posts, personal and military equipment. Meanwhile, the Russian armed forces also destroyed 6 ammunition plants in Donetsk, including a large ammunition plant that is used to keep American-made 155mm M77 howitzers. Russia will continue its special military operation in Ukraine despite the sanctions and increased Western assistance to Kyiv, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said Tuesday. Shoigu added to Russia was intentionally slowing the offensive to Ukraine to avoid civilian casualties. Additionally, the Russian Defense Ministry said Tuesday that the demining of the port of Mariupol and the coast of Sea of Azov was completed. Meanwhile, the Russian government is considering withdrawal from the series of international bodies, including the World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization, as these international organizations have neglected obligations towards Russia. The Russian Duma's Deputy Speaker, Pyotr Tosroy, said on Monday. Our previous Western partners, in fact, have not fulfilled a series of international obligations, including illegal sanctions against Russia's foreign reserves, assets of Russian people, and trade. From our perspective, we do not want our honour the obligations as well. These obligations have been existing in our law for 30 years, so we are planning to have relevant committees in our parliament analyse the legal documents for those international organisations to see whether they meet the current interest of Russia. The results of the work may be that Russia will no longer fulfil some international obligations, said Pyotr. Some WTO members, including the United States, the European Union, the Japanese revoked Russia's most favoured nation trade sanctions following the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Some of the countries imposed sanctions against Russia due to conflict. In response to these, Russia is discussing withdrawing from their trade organisations. These trade embargoes are unlawful sanctions against Russia run counter to WTO rules, so does move close markets towards Russian products. These contradict WTO rules, said Pyotr. After withdrawing from the WTO, Russia could stabilise the domestic economy and currency and will open its door wider to Asian and African partners, Pyotr said. We have to reshape our economy due to sanctions imposed by Europe, Western and United States, and we are accelerating the process. We will rapidly proceed to open our market towards partners in Asia, the Pacific region, and in Africa to fill the market gap caused by the sanctions, Pyotr said. For the withdrawal of the WHO, Porter said it depends on whether the supernatural power of international agencies is used against a particular country, such as Russia, adding that Russia's lower house is discussing it. Porter said that Russia will analyse the decisions made by international organisations and will reject them if they are politicised decisions. Russia will proceed with their decisions in a way to not harm an interest in others or create damage, but at the same time allows Russia to develop without any kind of restrictions, especially political restrictions.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favourite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has ordered to divide the land on Tolosap Lake land into Zone 2 and Zone 3 for the people who have lived in the villages on the land for a very long time, with consideration of historical factors of people living conditions. Prime Minister Hun Sen confirmed the division of the land in a special statement on Friday morning. EAC News reporter Dashana Guchin has the details.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has said that the conservation of the Tonle Sap Lake is necessary, but consideration must also be given to historical factors and the living standards of the people. He ordered for the situation on the ground to be checked and ordered for the land to be divided according to where villagers have lived for a long time, many since they were born, including the communes, districts, and pagodas that they have always known.
បញ្ហានេះត្រូវតែបានគិតហើយដែលយើងមិនត្រូវងាប់កន្លះទោះបីវានៅក្នុងតំបន់ 3 ឬនៅក្នុងតំបន់ 2 ប៉ុន្តែយើងត្រូវតែទទួលស្គាល់ថាតំបន់នេះគឺជាតំបន់ដែលមានកើតតាំងពីមុនពេលដែលយើងកំណត់ក្របខ័ណ្ឌតំបន់ 1 តំបន់ 2 តំបន់ 3 ទៅទៀតដូច្នេះមិនមែនជាទីតាំងថ្មីដែលប្រជាជនទៅកាន់រុករាននោះទេតែគាត់រស់នៅរាប់ចំនួនមកហើយតែចាំបាច់ត្រូវតែឃ្វាលចេញដាក់ចេញជាស្ថានភាពដូចស្ថានភាពបែកខ្លះ
The Prime Minister has ordered the Minister of Land, Deputy Prime Minister Chiesopara, and the provincial governors of districts and communes in those zones to take responsibility and make a request on behalf of the people for the land to be kept as the zone which they have known and submit it to the royal government for decision. The Licado Deputy Director for the Monitoring Program, Samat, has said that he supports the Prime Minister's decision.
ខ្ញុំគាំទ្រហើយខ្ញុំយល់ថាការសម្រេចរបស់ប្រមុខរាជរដ្ឋាភិបាលសម្ដេចតេជោនេះវាជារឿងត្រឹមត្រូវចំពោះប្រជាពលរដ្ឋដែលគាត់បានតាំងទីលំនៅនិងការរស់នៅតជំនាន់មកហើយជាយូរយារមកហើយណាគួរណាស់តែគាត់អាចនឹងរស់នៅបន្តហើយអាចនឹងទទួលបាននៅបានកម្មសិទ្ធិសម្រាប់គាត់ពួកគាត់ណាបាទប៉ុន្តែអ្វីដែលសំខាន់ទន្ទឹមនឹងការសម្រេចរបស់ប្រមុខរាជរដ្ឋាភិបាលនេះអាជ្ញាធរធ្វើម៉េចត្រូវតែមានវិធានការក្នុងការទប់ស្កាត់ដើម្បីកុំឲ្យមានការរុករានបន្តខុសពីអ្វីដែលរាជរដ្ឋាភិបាលលោកសម្រេច
The Tonle Sap Lake is divided into 3 zones. The first zone is the zone where people can live and can be registered. The second zone is the zone between Zone 1 and Zone 3, allows people to get benefits from the land through farming, and Zone 3 is the flooded forest area with strictly protected land. According to Prime Minister Hun Sen, in the past, he asked the Minister of Land and the provincial governor along the Tonle Sap Lake to adjust the boundaries of Zone 3 and Zone 2 in 3 provinces, including Pursat, Banti Minche, and Kampong Thom, with about 144 hectares between Zone 2 and Zone 1 to be for more than 9,000 families, and about 9,800 hectares between Zone 3 and Zone 2 to be provided for 3,400 families. Darshana Gauchan, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has ordered provincial governors, district governors and commune chiefs along the Tonle Sap Lake area to take responsibility for local people and prepare documents to submit to the royal government of the provision of the land to the people who have lived on that area for a very long time. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has more.
Speaking during a special live broadcast on the topic of the Tonle Sap Lake on Friday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen issued an order to the Minister of Land Management, Deputy Prime Minister Jisupara, as well as the provincial governors, district governors, and commune chiefs in the area around the lake to take on the responsibility of meeting the needs of the people living along the Tonle Sap Lake in order to have a clear and correct division of land area that still allows the people to benefit from the land. The Prime Minister's statement on this case came after he decided to re-establish the Tonle Sap Lake border post with consideration given to the living conditions and historical factors of the area where many people have lived for a long time.
ចឹងបន្ទុកនេះគឺត្រូវតែជាបន្ទុករបស់ថ្នាក់ឃុំដែលប្រជាពលរដ្ឋនឹងបោះឆ្នោតជូនអស់លោកនៅពេលក្រោយនេះហើយអស់លោកត្រូវទទួលខុសត្រូវចំពោះមុខប្រជាពលរដ្ឋនៅទីនោះសម្រាប់ការដែលគាត់ប្រកបការផលក្នុងរយៈពេលយូរមកហើយបូកជាមួយហើយបាស្រុកហើយបាខេត្តហើយខ្ញុំចាំតែចុះហត្ថលេខាទេខ្ញុំអាចចុះហត្ថលេខាកែតម្រូវចុះហត្ថលេខាបានតាមសំណើហើយខ្ញុំក៏អាចចុះហត្ថលេខាកែតម្រូវបានដែរ
Prime Minister Hun Sen also appealed to the people who received the land to do farming, not invade neighboring land by trying to expand further in size, and to not allow other people from other places, namely businessmen or powerful people, to conspire with citizens and invade many hectares of land and unlawfully rent to others like in the past. He also called on provincial governors, district governors, and commune chiefs to be accountable to the royal government on behalf of the local people on this issue. Dekadin, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has said that as the world recovers from the crisis of COVID-19, the Russia-Ukraine war has created new problems for the world and is affecting other countries, including development in Asia. The Prime Minister made this remark at the 27th International Conference on the Future of Asia on Friday morning. EAC News reporter Dashana Guchin has the details.
Prime Minister Hun Sen stated that the war in Ukraine has caused a sharp change in the global security environment, high uncertainty and unpredictable dangers, especially causing negative consequences on the recovery of socioeconomic development in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. Prime Minister also envisioned that this war clearly marked the return of fierce competition between superpowers, which is making the world move toward a new turning point of disunity, divided political and geopolitical ideologies, and coercing small states into choosing between these superpowers. He further shared his views on the work and priorities of Asia in what he saw as an increasingly divided world, calling on all Asian countries to stand together, respect sovereignty and independence, the principle of non-interference, respect each other's way of life, traditions, customs, and history of each country. He also said that adhering to the principles of multilateralism and rules-based international cooperation are two rules that Asia must continue to adhere by. The Prime Minister said, "We must not allow any country to be hindered in its development efforts by the imposition of unilateral sanctions, embargoes, or other coercive economic measures that violate international law as well as the core principles and purposes as enshrined in the United Nations Charter." In addition, he urged Asian countries to promote regional cooperation for mutual benefit by building solidarity and mutual trust, promoting economic recovery, and addressing common challenges. As the chairman of ASEAN in 2022, Prime Minister Hun Sen announced that Cambodia, together with other ASEAN member states, will strive to play a more active role in building a bright future for the Asian continent and the world. He said they are strengthening ASEAN's centrality and unity to ensure ASEAN's resilience and robustness against the pressure and influence stemming from intensifying geopolitical competition and other challenges. While speaking at the World Economic Forum earlier this week, on the night of Wednesday, 25th May, Prime Minister Hun Sen stated that Cambodia is currently holding a hot stone in reference to 4 major issues the country faces as the 2022 ASEAN chair, including the ongoing Myanmar crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, the conflict surrounding the South China Sea, and the Russia-Ukraine war. He said that in line with these major issues, geopolitical competition makes organizing ASEAN ever more difficult at this time. The Prime Minister further stated, "I also noticed that our friends who are superpowers told us that there is no need to choose between them, and we also confirmed that if those countries let us choose, we will not." He added that any initiative in the Asia-Pacific region or Asia-Pacific for Cambodia and ASEAN is based on 3 principles: to serve peace and development, to not be against any country, and to respect the unity of ASEAN centrality. Political analyst M. Sovanara told EAC News on Thursday that in a context where ASEAN is now at the center of a rivalry between the world's superpowers, staying at the center of ASEAN is the best position to take in 2022.
ប៉ុន្តែនៅពេលដែលយើងសន្យានៅក្នុងកិច្ចប្រជុំកំពូលពិសេសអាស៊ានអាមេរិកកិច្ចប្រជុំសេដ្ឋកិច្ចនៅ Davos នៅប្រទេសស្វីសនេះខ្ញុំគិតថាវេទិកាពិភពលោកគាត់ជាក់ស្ដែងសេដ្ឋកិច្ចហ្នឹងគឺវាល្អសម្រាប់តំបន់អាស៊ានសម្រាប់កម្ពុជាដែលប្រកាន់នៅគោលនយោបាយជាកណ្ដាលសម្រាប់មហាអំណាចទាំងអស់ហ្នឹងគឺជាកិច្ចការមួយល្អដែលអាចរក្សានៅតំបន់អាស៊ានឬក៏កម្ពុជាហ្នឹងគេផុតពីឥទ្ធិពលឬក៏និន្នាការនយោបាយរបស់មហាអំណាចមួយណាប្រាក់មុខបាន
The New York Times reported on 24th April that the geopolitical landscape following Russia's invasion of Ukraine is often likened to that of a new Cold War. While the main major rivals in the world are likely the United States, Russia, and increasingly China, the role of reshaping the global order has now shifted to other countries after more than 75 years. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
Permanent member of the Central Committee of the Cambodian People's Party, Lieutenant General Hun Manet, has stated with the Democracy Society, people have many choices to vote and have to vote for themselves, for their families and for their society, not for the benefit of any party. He made this remark during a meeting with the leaders and members of the working group and the youth activists of the party of the Srei Sanor district, Kompancham province on Friday. EAC News reported that Shona Guchin has more details.
Lieutenant General Hun Manet said that in the 43 years after the overthrow of the Democratic Kampuchea and the Khmer Rouge, Cambodia has transformed from a country just emerging from the killing fields to a country of peace, strong economy, opportunity, and all kinds of freedom for the people, especially the opportunity of personal development for youth and children. He said, "In this regard, the best party is the Cambodian People's Party, which has always provided warmth to the people without discrimination." He added that this is a party that has experience in the past, has the ability to maintain stability in the present, and can guarantee confidence for a bright future. Lieutenant General Hun Manet also called on the people to continue trusting and voting for the CPP through the one-party member, one-party supporter, one vote for the party campaign, to exercise their rights as citizens of this country, and to vote for the party that has the commitment and willingness to serve the people and local development, as has been done in the past, and which will continue to strive to promote efficiency of work. He also said said that the Cambodian government always evaluates its performance to see the strengths, weaknesses, improve negative issues, and fill in the missing points to serve the people better from one mandate to another. Darshana Gauchan, EAC News.
The Secretary of State of Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans of Youth Rehabilitation, Makra, has requested the ministries and institutions working with the field of education and other relevant partners, including the private sector, to expand the promotion and the provision of the non-discriminatory education and special education classes in schools for autistic children. EAC News reporter Deccan Nin has the story.
Speaking on behalf of the Minister of Social Affairs, Bung Sot, at the launch of the report on the situational analysis of people with autism in Cambodia on Friday, 27th of May, Secretary of State Makra said that currently the number of specialized schools in both the public and private sectors that provide support for children and autism is still small. In addition, the knowledge of appropriate methods and tools for teaching children with autism is still lacking, leading to some schools being reluctant to enroll children with autism. He continued that currently the gap between policy and implementation for the benefit of persons with disabilities, especially those with autism, is still limited, which makes understanding the situation of people with autism and their needs among the general public and other stakeholders limited as well. Moreover, access to health and rehabilitation services is provided only in a few urban areas. Secretary of State Makra said, in addition to the challenges mentioned above, the royal government is also concerned about the legacy of families with autistic people. The question is, who can an autistic person rely on when parents or family abandon them, or when their parents die, because we do not yet have a center to continue looking after them? The second secretary of the Australian Embassy in Cambodia, Connor Floyd, said that autism spectrum disorders are a diverse group of conditions. Characteristics may be detected in early childhood, but are often not diagnosed until much later. People with autism are often subject to stigma and discrimination, including unjust deprivation of health care, education, and opportunities to engage and participate in their communities. Connor Floyd added, a particular challenge for Cambodia is further exacerbated by the absence and availability of specialized professions, such as occupational therapists, speech therapists, and specialized teachers. In this regard, Secretary of State Makra proposed to promote professional training of people with autism so that they have the skills to make their own income and stand on their own feet when they have no family there to support them. He continued that provinces with rehabilitation centers should consider setting up rehabilitation labor programs, including mobile medical rehabilitation, to cover provinces that do not yet have rehabilitation centers so that people with autism can receive quality health care and rehabilitation services, and promote awareness of autism situation in Cambodia through commemorating the national and international days of awareness through social media, ministries, institutions, local authorities, local communities, schools, and families, so that they can provide efficient services in accordance with their needs. The Secretary of State also reminded and requested the ministries and institutions and private sector actors that have not yet recruited persons with disabilities in their workforce to comply with the quota set by national law and rush recruiting by giving priorities to those with autism. The World Health Organization estimates that 1 among 160 children worldwide has autism. Overall, the prevalence of autism in many low and middle-income countries, including Cambodia, remains unclear. In Cambodia, over the last 10 years, the disability sector has made significant progress, both in the formulation of policies and legal norms, and in the provision of support services, such as the new disability law, which is in a stage of finalization. In addition, the National Center for Persons with Disabilities Cambodia is currently under construction and scheduled to launch in 2023 as a place which will provide a variety of services, including rehabilitation services and vocational training services for persons with disabilities, including those with autism. Dekanin, EAC News.
The spokesman of the National Election Committee, Hung Putia, has told EAC News that there is no international observers for the 2022 Commune District Council elections, while the number of national observers alone may increase to nearly 70,000. EAC News reporter Darshana Gauchan has more.
The spokesperson of the NEC has said that as of Wednesday, 25th May, the NEC has registered more than 50,000 national observers for the Commune District Council elections, while more than 10,000 observers are still in the process of being checked. In total, he estimates that there will be more than 69,000 national observers for these elections. The NEC stopped accepting applications for national observers on 25th May, 2022. As for international observers, Hong Putia has confirmed that there are none present for this election. However, there will instead be special guest diplomats in Cambodia. Currently, 3 embassies have requested to be special guests for the Commune District Council elections, including the embassies of Japan, the European Union, and Australia. The UN in Cambodia also made a post on its Facebook page on Wednesday, 25th May, clarifying why no UN observers were sent for these elections, as the provision of UN electoral assistance can only be on the basis of a decision of the Security Council or General Assembly establishing a mandate for the UN to provide electoral assistance, and/or a formal written request for electoral assistance from an appropriate national authority. This decision or request would then be followed by an electoral needs assessment by the Electoral Assistance Division of the Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs. Then an approval of the focal point for electoral assistance matters would be needed before the UN system would be able to provide or make project commitments on the electoral assistance. Although no observers have been deployed, the UN confirms that it will continue to closely monitor developments in Cambodia, also stating that the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights normally monitors the general human rights situation in Cambodia, which is work that will continue during the election period. The 5th Commune District Council election will be held on 5th June, with 17 political parties taking part. Darshana Gauchan, EAC News.
The United States does not seek to sever China from the global economic but wants Beijing to adhere to international rules, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said in the long-awaited speech on Thursday, the 26th of May.
Washington will not block China from growing its economy or try to change Beijing's political system, Blinken said, but it will defend international law and institutions that maintain peace and security and make it possible for countries, including the United States and China, to coexist. During a 45-minute speech at George Washington University, Blinken said the U.S. is determined to avoid conflict or a new Cold War. While Blinken credited the hard work of the Chinese people for their country's historic economic transformation in the last 4 decades, he said that under China's leader Xi Jinping, the ruling Chinese Communist Party has become more repressive at home and more aggressive abroad. In the speech, he laid out the contours of a strategy to invest in U.S. competitiveness and align with allies and partners to compete with China. U.S.-China relations sank to their lowest level in decades under the Trump administration and have soured further under President Joe Biden, who has so far kept up his Republican predecessor Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs on Chinese goods, but also has pursued closer ties with allies in the Indo-Pacific and beyond to push back on Beijing's growing influence. 17 months into his administration, Biden, a Democrat, has faced criticism from Republicans and some foreign policy watchers for not announcing a formal strategy on China, the world's second largest economy after the United States and Washington's main strategic rival.
Prime Minister Masua Sangava of Solomon Islands and visiting Chinese State Councillor Foreign Minister Wang Yi on Thursday expressed willingness to strengthen ties and deepen cooperation between the two countries.
Sogavare thanked China for providing strong support and great help to the development of the Solomon Islands. He said the island country firmly supports China in safeguarding its sovereignty and territorial integrity, firmly adheres to the One China principle, and always stands shoulder to shoulder with China and on the right side of history. Sogavare said China has become the biggest cooperative partner of the Solomon Islands on basic infrastructure and a reliable development partner. He thanked China for providing anti-pandemic supplies, rapid test equipment, and sending medical teams to his country. He also appreciated the Chinese side for sending policing supplies and police advisors to help maintain social order of the Solomon Islands after the riot in Honiara. The Solomon Islands and China have conducted cooperation on the basis of equal treatment and mutual respect, and the connection in various fields has become increasingly close, bringing tangible benefits to the Solomon Islands people, the Prime Minister noted. For his part, Wang said the Chinese side appreciates the Solomon Islands' firm determination to safeguard its own national interests, strong desire to develop China-Solomon Islands friendly cooperation, and adherence to the One China principle. China also staunchly backs the Solomon Islands' efforts to safeguard national sovereignty, independence, protect national unity and solidarity, and speed up the realization of national prosperity on a path chosen by the country. Wang said it's not long since the two countries established diplomatic relationship, but the development of bilateral ties has been sound, steady, and fast. China and the Solomon Islands have become good friends of mutual trust and good partners supporting each other, with political mutual trust between the two countries ever deepening and pragmatic cooperation promising broad prospects, he noted. Facts have proven that the political decision of the Solomon Islands to establish diplomatic relationship with China is in line with the development and progress of the times, as well as the fundamental and long-term interests of the people of the Solomon Islands, Wang said. China is ready to work with the Solomon Islands to forge ironclad ties and deepen cooperation between the two sides so as to benefit the two peoples, Wang added. The emerging economies are rising en masse, and peace and development are still the irreversible trend of the times despite the unilateral bullying, Wang noted. China is ready to enhance coordination and cooperation with the Solomon Islands in multilateral organizations such as the United Nations to uphold true multilateralism, accelerate the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, cope with climate change, and jointly safeguard the rightful interests of medium and small countries. Sogavare said that Solomon Islands is also willing to strengthen communication and coordination with China on international issues. After the meeting, Sogavare and Wang witnessed the signing of a series of cooperation documents on blue economy, tariff preferences, health and anti-epidemic efforts, civil aviation, and disaster prevention and mitigation. Wang also met with Acting Governor General John Pateson Odi and Foreign Minister Jeremiah Manele on Thursday. Wang is visiting the Solomon Islands as part of his tour to the South Pacific island nations, which will take him to Kiribati, Samoa, Fiji, Tonga, Vanuatu, and Papua New Guinea, as well as Timor-Leste.
Highlighting the importance of the relations.
In the Bavarian city of San Miguel, near the capital Lima, locals celebrated a unique environment-friendly car race on Sunday the 22nd of May.
Using reused items, plastic bottles, and other recycled materials, contestants crafted their own racing vehicles. Over 20 cars inspired by iconic movies and cartoons participated. Amongst the racers were a Batmobile, a Super Mario Bros. Inspired car, and a beehive-shaped car. San Miguel's mayor, Jose Guevara, said that the aim was to uphold family union and, above all, to promote the crafting of cars using recycled materials. In the children's category, a car inspired by the 90s TV series Rugrats got the first prize. A Ninja Turtles car won the first place in the adult category. The event was part of the activities to celebrate the San Miguel's District 102 anniversary.
Canadians in Ottawa decided to celebrate Britain's Queen Elizabeth's 70th years on the throne by holding a parade of corgi dogs, the breed favoured by the Queen.
Queen Elizabeth, 96, the longest reigning monarch in British history, enjoys widespread popularity according to surveys, with many of her subjects, particularly the more elderly, holding her in deep affection. Early next month, Britain will honour the Queen's Platinum Jubilee with 4 days of pageantry and celebration. Buckingham Palace has previously said she intends to attend a number of different events. Earlier in May, Queen Elizabeth missed her annual address to Parliament, with the palace citing episodic mobility issues. Until recently, she had not been seen often in public following a night in hospital last October for an unspecified illness.
And finally, Far Penlu Salpak is pleasant to present the Tingi Tanu International Circus Festival in Battambang from the 29th of May to the 3rd of June 2022. This edition will bring artists from Cambodia, Thailand, Taiwan, and France to perform an open, productive dialogue with students to inspire them to pursue their dreams through the arts. The EAC News team went to Siem Reap to see the FAR's performance and to discuss the arts as well as how to overcome the COVID-19 to reignite Tingi Tanu.
Tingi Tanu means here and there in Khmer. It is a 6-day festival to showcase performances and engage festival goers in the arts, free performances, and local food delicacies. Tingi Tanu will start on Sunday 29th of May with a puppet and circus parade across the heritage town of Battambang and close the celebrations on Friday 3rd of June with a final concert by the artists of Clap Your Hands. The festival's aim is to bring together artists to share experiences, participate in workshops, and most importantly, inspire young people, engage the local community, and promote arts in Cambodian society, bringing greater unity and understanding of shared values. Craig Dodge, the director of sales and marketing for FAR, the Cambodian circus, said that when COVID-19 hit, it was a real shock to the system because FAR's profit go back to supporting the school in Battambang to provide free academic and artistic education and more. What got them through the pandemic was the people who continued to believe in their mission and sacrifices made by the artists and staff.
But it was largely through the support of those people who really believe in the project, as well as a lot of sacrifices by the artists and the staff, and everybody understood. I mean, nobody was really unrealistic about it. Everybody knew. So many people who could took voluntary leaves to go back to their hometown to be with their family. The people who stayed agreed to work reduced hours with reduced pay. And then now things are kind of coming back, and because we've all gone through that together, there's a solidarity to it.
Viban Kong, a FAR circus artist, was thankful that he could go to the FAR Punlu Salapat school in Battambang even during the pandemic to keep his body in shape and in preparation for shows in Siem Reap when they restart.
នៅបាត់ដំបងមានសាលាមួយសម្រាប់ឲ្យពួកខ្ញុំហាត់សមដើម្បីពង្រឹងឲ្យវាពង្រឹងរាងកាយឲ្យវាកាន់តែមាំដើម្បីត្រឡប់មកសម្ដែងនៅសៀមរាបវិញ
Rasik, a circus goer, loved the circus and aspires to be like the performers one day.
The show is very nice because all the gymnastics looks very hard. I also want to do that.
Now that Cambodia has fully reopened the country, including lifting quarantine mandate for those who are fully vaccinated, FAR Punlu Salapat is reuniting the Tini Tinu International Festival with much fun and laughter planned for everyone, even despite the short preparation time they had with the support of Battambang Provincial Governor. Organizing art festivals is part of FAR's strategy to bring arts to the people and engage with the community to build cultural identities around shared heritage. We hope festivals like this will raise Battambang's profile as the creative arts and cultural hub of Cambodia, shared Osman Kajvaja, the director of FAR Punlu Salapat. Watch this space for the upcoming Spotlight edition on FAR the Cambodian Circus.
Now, let's have a look at the weather and what you can expect over the next few days. Thanks for watching the weekly Roundup here on the EAC News Channel. More from the EAC News team in the Daily Roundup Monday night from 8 p.m. I'll see you then.